Hey, welcome back to another Ad Notebook podcast show with the hockey coach Franchise directly for the beautiful country of Thailand. An amazing, great Wednesday night, January 15th, already the half of the month. Jesus, it's so fast. Can I believe it? 2025. Hopefully, you're doing well and ready to talk about the Montreal Canadiens after a big, huge W on the road again. The Utah Hockey Club. We're going to talk about what happening to them. The Laval Rocket play right now. At this moment, Laval losing 2-0 again the club affiliation Pittsburgh Penguins at this. And we're going to talk also about its fun news around the Montreal Canadiens and what do you think about Lane Hudson. A lot of things to talk about tonight. So this is the place to be talking about your Bleu Blanc Rouge. Of course, the Montreal Canadiens. The subject of the night, guys, is about Kent Hughes, stick to the plan. So we'll see if what's happening for that plan for the Montreal Canadiens. First at the trade deadline, but a little bit more about the summer. We have some kind of rumor around the Montreal Canadiens with specific players. We'll see what's happening. If you follow me, I did a video today talk about don't lose on the road. The Montreal Canadiens have a great record of 8-0 in the last 10 games on the road. They are number one in NHL. If you look about the Montreal since December 1st, they are one of the top best 10 team in NHL, number the point and the standing. Completely change everything. Start at the half of maybe the month of November for the Montreal Canadiens. So I'm going to talk about this. I'm sure you're excited about the Montreal Canadiens now if you're a fan of Montreal Canadiens. And I think that would be a great place tonight to talk about Montreal because tomorrow Montreal will turn on the ice. They play again the Dallas Star at the American Airlines Arena downtown in Dallas. And of course, they play back-to-back games on the weekend. What about a Saturday night when you see the Toronto Maple Leafs in town again in Montreal Canadiens? Then the next night is going to be the New York Rangers at the Montreal Canadiens. Again, the Bleu Blanc Rouge. So 2 games again, the 6th team history in NHL. Of course, the New York Rangers, Toronto Maple Leafs. Again, the Montreal Canadiens. A show without them at the notebook is impossible because the regular co-host is with me tonight. Of course, I'm talking from Augsburg, Marko and we have a special guest. Not a special guest, but, really busy with what's going on around his hockey live. But he is have a time to stop by talking about the Montreal Canadiens, the Detroit Red Wings, and, of course, the NHL Draft prospect. That's the reason he's going to be with us tonight talking about what could happen for the Montreal Canadiens at the NHL Draft 2025. So welcome back from California. I'm sure he feel the heat over there. Hopefully everything is looking good over there for him, his family. Michael Devellano and Marko are back in the house tonight.
How's it going, Michael?
Hockey
Really
Nation
nice.
Live.
Yes.
Things are good, Marko. How are you?
Very good, man. Very good. Hoping everything is well on the left coast.
Good where I am. I'm in Orange County. Orange County is quite a ways away from Palisades, but Palisades is very, very unfortunate. So lots of friends and have been affected in a very, very tragic way, and it's kind of rough. A lot of people have actually come to Orange County to escape it.
Yeah. It's going to be a long process to rebuild. So very, very interesting to see kind of how that's going to shake out for everybody, where people are going to go. A lot of tough decisions, heart-wrenching decisions to make. So thoughts to everyone, but we're really happy. And anybody who's watching, any Habs fans on in that area, hopefully we can keep your mind off things for a little bit. I don't know how many Habs fans there are in LA. I'm sure there's quite a few.
Kings and Ducks.
Yeah, there you go.
We have to have both of you tonight. We have a lot of things to talk about. But before that, if you don't mind, I want to welcome everybody into the chat. In our tab, moderator is in the house tonight. LDP celebrate W of the Buffalo Sabres. The game was set at 6 o'clock today, I believe. Right. They beat the Canada Hurricane. So Buffalo back in the line, not in the race, but they get in close. It's good to see Buffalo have a W against the Canada Hurricanes.
Cousins,
So
Cousins
4-2.
scored again.
Yeah. So we'll
And
see
2
what's
goals from
happening
a
for
foul.
them. But definitely, it's good to see them. Abination is in the house tonight. Welcome back. Sebastian number 2 knocked the door. Welcome. RG Calabo, the news update will be a quiet night for you. They have only 2 games on the program and NHL tonight. Alan Vanyako
gotta
is in the house tonight. Welcome back, Alan, from Kentucky. And Alan's going to watch. He's going to be at the Bridgestone Arena the 21st to see the San Jose Sharks again, the Nashville Predators. I think it will be a good game. I think if I,
January 21st.
not to say like if I pick one team, I will looking for the San Jose Sharks, but to have now Sidney Brunet, Will Smith in the lineup, I think I will go to watching the San Jose Sharks. Honestly,
They beat Detroit the other night.
yeah, they
Yeah,
stopped
I didn't want to bring it up. I didn't want to bring it up, Michael, but yeah.
the
Uso
straight,
was brutal.
the straight
Yeah,
over
that was-
there. Also with Askarov now, so it's a team. Is I think is we're going to talk about them a little bit later, but I think Mike Grigg is doing a good job over there,
Oh my God,
Uh,
great job.
right?
They're
So-
within 1 point. Now they've got 3 games in hand, but they're within 1 point of Nashville.
Yeah.
That's kind of
crazy.
funny. Like Askarov's going to make them hate that deal, I think.
We'll see happening about that. PLW is in the house tonight. Welcome back, PLW. Hopefully you're doing well. And he's going to with Addison score a goal at 42. Edmonton play tonight, I believe, right? So
Yeah.
we'll see happening. Charlot is in the house. Welcome back. Claude Richard de la capitale du Canada. De retour avec nous ce soir, Ottawa. And we have Randy Walkman from Calgary, Alberta. Ready to talking about his flame. Good year so far. The Laval Rocket play with 2 men on the PQ right now, so it's not good things for them. We'll see. Bob Smith is in the house. Welcome back. Hopefully you're doing well. Pizza knocked the door. And we had a couple of conversations. Luc Fortin is in the house tonight also. Philip Brand is in the house. Talking about the Laval Rocket, they play again the Pittsburgh affiliation. Paul Jujavi play with that team. That's interesting to see him in the American Hockey League. And then Roger McGrady,
Yeah, McGrady.
he play with them. Pierre Martin or Pete Martin is in the house. L. Anson in the house. Sanderman is in the house. Everybody is in the house. Thanks to be a part of the show. Talking about Pittsburgh Penguins. Well, we have to start with that one before we go to start the show because he's back in the house with Ashley. And of course, I'm talking about Dixon Automotive. Back in the house from Ontario. Dixon, hopefully doing well. You and Ashley. I remember now, Ashley. Last week I called her his wife, Jennifer. She said that, no, it's Ashley as well. I'm sorry. I thought I was talking about your girlfriend, but it's like, I go quickly on that one, but he was not that one over there. But we'll see what's happening. First of all, go talk about this. Is the news when interesting. It's involved the goaltender, but also what would be the impact after that. And I'm talking, guys, about the Pittsburgh Penguins with Tristan Jarry, Marko. Jarry and when we started the beginning, like 5 years ago together, he was really a goaltender you really like.
I really liked him. He was great in our league, and he looked like. I mean, he's 29 now, obviously, but he's. I'm really shocked at the trajectory of his game. Like he let in 4 goals on 17 shots the other night. So I think that was just kind of the final straw, and he's let in like something like in 13 games.
It's like a record. Like I think he's number 1 in the NHL where he allows a goal like on the very first shot of the game, and then there's also like 5 games where he allowed a goal on the second shot of the game. Like it's just not giving his team a chance.
Wasn't Felix Potvin the champion of 1 goal, 1 shot, and then he shut you out the rest of the game?
His number, I think, his save percentage was 892
or something. It's like 892.
It's and he had a conditioning stint too. So I mean, I don't know. I think they're just kind of like at the end of their rope on this. Like, I'm definitely shocked. I don't know what they say. He's got no injury problems. So $5 million a year. Luckily it's only a 2-year deal, so
Oh
that's
no,
not
no. I
like
think
the end.
I think he's got 3 more years, man. After this one,
Really? I thought they said it was 2.
I thought it was like 3.
Maybe you're right. Let's check.
Yeah.
Now I know
If you
Puckpedia.
think back, guys, to the first week that Dubas,
Yeah, it's 2 more.
he's got 2 more.
So it's 27. He's a free agent in 28. So 27, 28 is the last year. So it's this year that you're right. Next year and
Yeah.
1 more. So it is 3, including this year.
Yeah.
And
Do you
no
feel like
movement clause.
Do you feel like the same way like happening to him, like a little bit what happening with Carl Peterson with the Los Kings, where he signed a big contract? I was thinking about Jack Campbell, but I think it's two
He's got a
goaltender.
much
They
better
raise the
pedigree.
contract and then they disappear.
But like, am I wrong that this guy was a Vezina caliber goalie at one point?
I think if you really look back, guys, it really all traces back to that one. I can't remember which series it was, right? But he had a really good season, and he just had a terrible, terrible playoff. I think it might have been against Philly. I can't remember, but it was really bad. Like he couldn't stop a beach ball, and then it just kind of started off that way. He's a really good regular season goaltender, but then would just really kind of have issues in the playoffs. But then it just started spilling into the regular season more and more. But it's sometimes just a playoff series can kind of completely break a guy's confidence.
I
And I think
guess
that's what's happening with him. Yeah.
I mean, he's got a lot of games under his belt, right? Like he's played. It's just steady decline though, which is the challenge. Like, he had 921 and then 909. He jumped up at 919, 909, 903. Now I got to think 886 is like it's an outlier for him. But something's going on, I mean, you can't have that type of save percentage. Although, I didn't realize the whole
The
NHL
whole
this year, I
league.
think the save percentage is
Yeah.
way down. So I
Absolutely.
think the offense, there's so many talented offensive players, and I think coaches have figured out systems to get puck movement and open up opportunities. So it's been tougher for goalies, but you're not going to stay in the NHL with those types of numbers. But I don't know. I hope he bounces back. He's had a decent career with them. I guess
Interesting,
so
right there.
does he
Interesting,
win
like
a
a
cup
couple years ago, they have like Murray, Fleury, and Jarry.
Right.
They had the pick of one to,
Yeah.
Is
Went with the
Pittsburgh
younger guy. Went with the younger
Pittsburgh
guy,
a
but like if you think back, guys, to that first week that Dubas arrived in Pittsburgh and how disastrous his first decisions were, like one thing we don't know is how much management dictated that to him, right? Like I think they didn't want to rebuild like we have here in Montreal, right? So he, the very first decisions he made was to re-up Jari, and then he went and got Carlson. So those are 2 decisions that are kind of like aging like milk at this point.
Even the Ryan Graves thing hasn't really turned out well.
Yeah. That was a
I
really
thought he was
tough.
it's weird.
All right, guys, I have to move on about that and watch the Laval Rocket, and then the goaltender. They wear the same uniform like the Pittsburgh Penguins. So, and the goaltender have a number, and the number is 40. When you see number 40, who do you remember the most for the Pittsburgh Penguins? The goaltender.
Lalim? Is it Patrick Lalim?
Well, yeah. Wasn't it Meloche?
No.
Was Joe Meloche 40?
No.
He was 29.
27.
Oh,
Okay.
27.
Was it the guy with the Italian name?
I thought Patrick Lalim was 40.
What's the guy that had the Italian name? I can't remember his name. But...
Here you go. He got it.
Pietrangelo?
Yeah, Frank.
Yeah.
Pietrangelo. No, that's the number.
Yeah,
that's the name. That's the name came on my head.
I don't think it's
Is he 40?
Pietrangelo. I'm gonna look.
Yeah, it's Alex Pietrangelo's uncle.
Really? No way.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure because Frank was like in Toronto still afterwards.
That's the name I remember. So I was like, Tom Barrasso.
Oh, he was number 40. You're right.
Yeah. Tom Barrasso was 39, no?
Tom Barrasso was 35.
35, yeah. Yep.
I guess it's his cut. I think technically Alex is his cousin.
Okay.
Yeah.
M&M is in the house. Welcome, everybody. Thanks for being here. Anyway, it was just a question. I see 40. That's the number came. That's the name came in my head. So I'm sorry about that. We're going to talk about the recap game yesterday for the Montreal Canadiens. Win by the score 5-3 against the team Utah Hockey Club. Very interesting W for the Montreal Canadiens. Yesterday, we're going to talk about this. Marko is going to give us a little bit about what you think about the performance of Montreal Canadiens. And with that, Marko is going to talk about different players happening. You hear about the name, but just a recap game, Marko, if you don't mind, happening between both teams. First of all, Montreal Canadiens, the last 10 games, 8-2 on the road. The last 20 games, they are 13-6-1. Montreal have a great game. I think one of the reasons Montreal won yesterday after a really bad first period. Hudson, 3 assists, plus three on the game. Second line, 4 points, plus 7. 2 goals for Kirby Duck, 7 and 8 of the year. Laney got his 10 of the season. Cole Caulfield scored 24 goals of the season yesterday. Caulfield, I believe, have 7 goals in the last 10 games with 2 points. I gave him 42 points in 43 games. Finally, defensemen have 7 points yesterday. Lenarson with 3, but Mike Madison and Alex Carrier, both of them have 2 points. And is this another resilient team, the Montreal Canadiens, losing by 1 goal after 20 minutes, came back with 3 goals to take the lead. 2 goals and then 4-3 and then 5-3 for the Montreal Canadiens. So it's a team bounced back. They never gave up. And we can go deep about the game. We're going to add more information after Marko. But what do you think, Marko, about the performance of Montreal? Of course, the indiscipline the first period, 4 penalty, and a couple of players stepped up in the room. David Savard was upset at the end of the period. Martin Saint-Louis.
You're stealing all my notes, Coach. I have nothing to talk about. You're giving me
here we go. Talking about the rest of the happening about that for the Montreal Canadiens. Before that, Marco, I just want to see TH in the house, THG in the house. Welcome back. Big fan of New York Islanders. I'm going to email you, TH about the New York Islanders prospect. So we're going to send you an email about this, TH. So check your email tomorrow morning when you wake up. Sorry about that, Marco.
It's all good. Yeah, Coach, I think the word resilience really kind of sums it up really well, right? So, like you mentioned, really, really tough start. Pizzetta, jumping into the lineup after Emil Heineman. Michael, I'm sure you heard about that. Emil Heineman got hit by a car.
It's so crazy in Utah.
Yeah, crazy Mormon drivers and hitting one of our top boards. So not amazing. So Pizzetta gets into the lineup, and Martin Saint-Louis really likes to start his games with that line, with the Evans line, because they give so much energy, right? Like they really kind of dominate the play down low. So Pizzetta gets his chance on that line, and then literally I think 7 seconds into the game, he takes really, really needless penalty in the neutral zone, like just hooking a guy, just not really thinking. So immediately Utah goes on the power play. Matheson, kind of an unlucky play, kind of just swung his stick on the ice, trying to poke the puck away and tripped it. So boom, within like the first minute, Montreal's 5-on-3. And overall, like they did a pretty good kill. They almost got through the whole 5-on-3, but then I think it was Doan came in and kind of knocked a rebound in. That was kind of like not a great way to start the game. Mike Matheson, very similar. Like it was really interesting, guys. I don't know if you guys saw the goal that, I can't remember. Like, who's the guy from Columbus, the defenseman in Columbus that's having the Norris season? His name is slipping. Werenski. Yeah, Werenski and Matheson had almost the same goal last night. It was crazy. Like, both number 8 left-handed, speedy defensemen just breaking down the middle and scoring. Very similar goals that Werenski and Matheson scored last night. So it's just kind of a weird coincidence. But Matheson brings Montreal right back into the game. And then, again, more penalty troubles. And you could see that Martin Saint-Louis was not very happy. It's kind of like that Ben Affleck meme where he's like leaning against the wall, smoking a cigarette in frustration kind of situation. And I think, Coach, good point. Like some after the game, there was they didn't really catch us on the broadcast, but David Savard ripped into the team openly on the ice, like just kind of screaming down at the bench, just kind of letting the guys know that they need to do a lot better. And I think that might have been a turning point in the game. Martin Saint-Louis asked after the game, like, what did you tell the guys, during the intermission to get everything back on track? And he's like, I didn't need to say anything. I think the room took care of it. And everybody that was watching the game could see that, right? So after that, Montreal came in the second period and really kind of dominated play. Again, still penalty troubles though, like keeping Utah in the game. But overall, like you said, for me the most exciting thing was the line with Doc, the second line, really solid game. Line, everybody will remember the one-timer shot that he scored, but to me the most impressive part of that play was the carry into the zone, like the actual zone entry was really smart. You can see why some coaches have thought that maybe he could play center because the way that he got the line, he kind of like slowed down, waited for his teammates to join and like found a pocket. And then there was a really beautiful passing play between him, Carrier, and Line to get Montreal back in. And then another beautiful Hudson was controlling the game, like Quinn Hughes style. The third goal, a really nice zone entry by him as well too, finding Doc, who was kind of like zooming into the zone. And I don't know what it is, but Utah was letting Montreal just take the center of the ice very easily last night. There was the Matheson goal, and then same thing with Doc. So really, like, Coach, you nailed it, right? Like, really good resilient effort by Montreal. But you know how Martin Saint-Louis always says that you have to not just look at the results, but you have to look at truth. Like, overall, Montreal's still playing really well, but there's going to be times where they're not going to be able to come back in games. I think most of the wins that Montreal has come back from, they've had to come from behind. And it's great that Montreal is gaining confidence, putting themselves in positions to win even though they're trailing. But I'm hoping the coaching staff is wanting them to kind of like buckle up a little or buckle down a little bit more in the first period so that they can have leads and protect leads more so than always having to come from behind. But great road effort. Like you said, Caulfield, you're really lighting it up over the last 7 games. So lots of positive things, but cautionary tale here, guys. Like, it's one of those things, sometimes when a team is hot, towards the end of their hot streak, they continue to win games that maybe they shouldn't win. I think Montreal overall carried most of the play here. I just don't want Montreal to fall into that zone where they're just finding ways to win, even though they're not playing as well as they were throughout, like, say, the month of December, right? So really good, but just really need to tighten up here on stupid penalties. Yeah. Mike, did you watch the game?
Whatever you can get.
Yeah, you were probably busy
watching.
watching
a little bit of the Montreal. I did watch a little bit of the Montreal game, but yeah, I don't know. They're playing really well. I mean, it just shows you when you make, for most teams, I think in the NHL, one way or the other, when you make a change, my internet's acting, isn't it? Jesus.
No, it's good.
Let me close some
it's
stuff.
good, man.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah.
I think the difference between a lot of teams is like 2 players, maybe 3 at the most. So when you look at Utah, for example, they lose Dylan Guenther and they're falling apart.
Yeah.
So suddenly they're like, their whole season's out the window again. And you look at Montreal, Laine comes back. Kirby Dach suddenly looks a lot better because he's had some time to recover. And you throw in Carrier. And it's like everything changes. And it's the same thing with Nashville the other way, right? It's like, okay, we make 3 big changes, but then they lose McDonough. They kind of demote Evangelista, and they're falling apart. It's just so few changes like that. And Detroit's a similar situation where you just change the coach, and the coach recognizes, there's guys that are being buried here that can play better, and they're moved into situations where they can succeed and contribute. And
exactly.
It just changes everything. Guys in.
It's about slotting guys in.
Definitely for Detroit. I mean, that showed us that. And some lineups are just have 1 or 2 missing pieces, and it can make such a big difference.
Yeah, it's all about slotting guys in the right place. Line A comes in, and all of a sudden you have a lot more balance in the lineup, and that's going to be an important thing from like. So another thing to take from the game, guys, for me is the key for Montreal's success, I think, especially in the fact that the schedule is so busy. All teams, with the Four Nations Challenge and everything, it's just such a crazy schedule, right? So everybody's playing condensed games. And one advantage that maybe not a lot of people talk about with Montreal is that they roll four lines continuously, while some other teams, like say Colorado or some other teams, might ride their top six even more, and their bottom six players don't get as many minutes. Montreal is like Michael, if you look at the ice time, it's really well distributed across all the four lines. So if St. Louis he's gonna want to continue to do that, and for Montreal to be successful, they're going to need to continue to do that. But with Pizzetta taking the spot for Heineman on that line with Evans, I'm not sure. Like in the last couple of games when Pizzetta was filling in for Laine, and then with this one, Pizzetta is playing like 5 or 6 minutes, and what they're doing is they're rotating out another forward from another line just to keep things rolling. So for me, right now they're on the road trip. They're going to Dallas for tomorrow, so it doesn't look like they're going to be calling someone up. But I'm not sure if Pizzetta is going to be the solution if they really want to continue having that Evans line play really important minutes. Because Michael, I don't know if you've noticed, but like St. Louis does not hesitate to put his fourth line against top lines, right? Like he actually prefers it. Like that Evans line is matching up against top lines from other teams. So I'm just not sure you can do that with Michael Pizzetta. So Montreal is going to need to look at maybe calling someone up, because I think their superpower right now, what's really allowing them to stay in these games with these condensed schedules, is spreading out those minutes across the four lines. Martin St. Louis doesn't even need to think about it, man. Like he almost doesn't need to match. Like he's comfortable putting anybody out there, and that's going to be important for them to do moving forward.
I mean, it seems like Jake Evans is coming back to earth, so that's going to take a little bit of offense. But generally, it's kind of impressive, the balance of goals. Like you've got guys that are on the third line with 10 goals. Like you got two of them, and then Laine on the second line, 10 goals in 15 games is insane, and that just speaks to his talent. So that definitely helps. And I think I'll use Detroit as the same example. You go from one line to three line scoring, it makes a massive difference. So like last year, they lost basically 75 goals in Detroit. Wallman and Ghost leave, which still don't quite get those moves. Both rocking it.
Fabry.
I think Wallman's on pace for 65 points, and then you got Fabry, Perron, and Sprong, and between the three of them, that's like 36, 53 goals, right? So 75 goals out the window, and then you've got to reintroduce guys. It takes time sometimes, right? Or maybe it doesn't work. You got to move it in. So you lose a guy like Emil Heineman, I think how do you pronounce his name? Is that
Heineman? Yeah, right? You got it.
Yeah. When you lose 10 goals, you're not going to be able to stick in a Pizzetta with 0. Like that guy's not going to score anything, period.
Yeah.
It's just not going to work. So it's definitely going to affect every line.
And it's even more than just, it's not even just the goal scoring, right? It's the ability to to just have confidence in putting him out there.
Sure.
What's really good at, like, you have Evans and Armia, who are elite at penalty killing, by the way, too, right? Like Evans leads the NHL in PK minutes as a forward. So you can put him out there. So it's not just about like, okay, we can bring somebody else up. They might not produce at the same rate as Heineman, but you just need somebody. Like the key for them is they keep the puck in the offensive zone of the other team, right? And they're cycling it and bottling them up in the other zone, and that's just completely invaluable for Martin St. Louis, right? So you just want somebody to be able to not let the plays die, with Evans and Armia. You just want somebody that can come in, help facilitate them, do what they do, have confidence that you can put them out there in any situation. I think, Coach, you brought up maybe Harvey Pinard is somebody that Montreal would bring up. I think that's probably the closest fit that they have. There's probably some guys that will bring up. Yeah, but again, like,
I was going to get in the NHL someday.
I think he will, but I don't know if his defensive game, like the reason he got sent down is that his defensive game and his compete level wasn't quite there yet. And so for me, if you're going to bring Waugh, you want him to be in the top 9,
Yeah,
more so than. So I don't know. Harvey Pinard he's a puck hound, and I think he's also really responsible defensively. So, and he can chip in a little bit, right? Like I don't think, obviously it's a little unrealistic. Like he had 14 goals in 30 something games like that the year that Montreal was tanking and he was playing with Suzuki. So I don't think we're going to see that kind of offense from him. But you would imagine he can score 5 to 10 goals in the NHL if he was playing on the fourth line as well. So
Owen
I
Beck
think
got really good numbers. Owen Beck is a +10, and he's got 24 points in 34 games.
really, really good rookie season for him in the AHL. I think the strategy overall, Michael, I think similar to what you would know in Detroit, right? They want to let those guys marinate. Laval, they want them to really kind of have a good season. Laval have a deep playoff run. So I think if possible, they would like to just let those guys percolate as much as possible. Harvey Pinard isn't going to move the needle that much over there.
Yeah.
There's Jared Davidson as well, which I'm sure you're really familiar with, who's having a really nice season as well. So they have some options, but I don't know. I think everybody loves Pizzetta, but it's clear that St. Louis doesn't have the trust in him to put him out there more than 5 minutes. And like I said, for a team like Montreal to be successful, they have to continue to roll those 4 lines. So we'll see what happens. I think maybe, Coach, you were right. Like when Montreal circles back to play Toronto on Saturday, I won't be surprised if we see a call up then.
I think so too. I think also Davidson is under play. If they go with a player want to play not the same style, but the closest style of Edelman is honestly Davidson. If they want to play with a player with experience in NHL, but they can go with Barry Boulet, RHP. I think that will be the 2-1 I will call there. I don't see Joshua Roy on the 4 line for the Montreal Canadiens. And then I don't see Beck or Condotta as a winger with the Montreal again. Could be a solution, but I think they would go that direction. And I don't know, Marko, it would be a waiver situation to losing the player on the waiver. There would be the maybe make a decision. That's the reason that maybe it's Davidson over other 2 players. But we'll see what the Montreal is going to do. The stood out player for yesterday, Marko, before we move on, the obscure and the office for the Montreal game yesterday. Here we go. That's your turn.
I feel like it's like a broken record, right? It's almost like every game I could say that Lane Hutson is the player that stood out just because of the way that he plays, right? And I think I've mentioned it a couple times. Like for me, if I'm voting today on who the MVP is for Montreal season so far, like some people might be surprised. Like you have Caulfield, Suzuki playing great, but to me, it's Lane Hutson. Like he, a lot of time is controlling the game. Michael, I don't know how closely you've been watching, but for us,
definitely.
For us, really impressed. Not just obviously what he's creating, but his defensive game, the anticipation, everything that he does from an anticipation perspective on the offensive side, you're seeing that really translate into his defensive game now. You're hearing more and more about his work habits, how prepared he is, how much of a pro he is. So for me, absolutely, it would be Lane Hutson. 3 points, his first 3-point game in his very, very young NHL career. Just outstanding. For me, the obscure guy, I referenced it earlier. I'm going to say David Savard for the wake-up call that he gave the team at the end of the 3rd period. And also, he had the penalty kill was huge. Like I know they did allow 2 power play goals yesterday, but there's a lot of work for the PK unit, and Savard, really strong. And he's just coming back from an injury not too long ago as well, too. So I'll give the obscure hero to Savard for rallying the troops and doing what he does best, which is kill penalties, block shots, and all that. In the office, to me, I think it's clear, Pizzetta is somebody that you have to bring into the office. It's a tough position for him. Like I think we all feel for him. He, it's not a fair situation. Life is not fair. Michael, he's played, I think he hadn't played since mid-October, he played 2 games, then didn't play since October. And then he played a couple games when Laine was injured and then sat again. So listen, we know it's not an ideal situation for Pizzetta and he's a great teammate. Everybody loves him. I don't know why he cut his hair, because if I was his brand manager, I'm like, dude, you got to keep the mop. Like that's part of the brand. But went ahead and cut his hair. So that's not going to impact his play. I know that, but is it? Maybe, I don't know. Either way, I would have him in the office and remind him, like, listen, like, Michael, this is really important opportunity for you to play some minutes with Heineman down. And, like, we know we have a really, really clear identity for what this line is. And it's important for you to be physical, get involved, help Evans and Armia keep that puck down low and do your best. But it's just non-negotiable. You can't, if you're going to take a roughing penalty, that's okay. That's going to happen. But taking sticking penalties, like tripping penalties and stuff like that, that just can't happen in the kind of role that you're in. So I would definitely have him in the office to remind him that how important he is to keeping this streak alive and this good play alive, and that he has an opportunity here, but he really needs to get with the program and maybe start growing his hair out again.
Good point about this. I will say to you, Marko, I think this should be the end for Michael Pesada. For his benefit of his career. I think he had no room with the Montreal Canadiens. He become a UFA at the end. And I think he could maybe help some other team at some point. I think Montreal don't need, at this moment, Pesada. I think that would be the one reason there I will trade or I will give it Pesada, but we'll see what happening about him. We'll talk about something about the Laval Rocket. All right now on the power play, 2 men for the Laval Rocket. And Castor, the goaltender of the team for opponent team, Castor. He looked like a wall tonight.
Wilkes-Barre Penguins.
Yeah.
Wilkes-Barre Scranton.
Stood out. I'm going to go with Kirby Duck. I think he deserved that. 2 goals yesterday. Honestly, I could go with the second line, but I will go with Kirby Duck yesterday. I'm going to be my obscure. The obscure sometimes, like Gilbert Delame, he said more like a player with a tap of slack or something like that. But I would say the obscure yesterday. I really like the play of Joel Armia yesterday. Protect the puck. It was great. It was amazing on the PK. Jake Evans could score 3 goals yesterday on PK with all the play by Joel Armia last night. So you talk about obscure. I think I will go with Joel Armia. And final de l'office, honestly, we have only Mike Pesada, in my opinion, for the Montreal again. So big W for Montreal on the road. I really like the way they come back. And then, look, this is the team is unbelievable. And the last 25 game with the Montreal and NHL. I should start with that one, guys. We're going to go with Montreal News. We're going to go reverse on that one. Montreal Canadiens knows Heineman injury. For Heineman, when he crossed the street, look like now his right wrist broken.
Yeah.
And this is not like good, but sometimes the wrist is maybe not deep, but we'll see what's happening for him. 3 out of 4 weeks for Heineman. We talk about Pesada or Montreal Canadiens, player we're going to call up. So we already talk about this, Marko, so we're not going to get there. Next one over there, Jake Evans deal. 4 years at $3.5 million. It was announced by Eric Engels.
How much?
Engels.
So it's not done deal, but that's the negotiation with her, Michael.
What's the number?
What I will ask you, Michael, is about
I heard that in reverse.
How you feel about that deal?
3 years, 4.5. I was like, oh my God. Well, he's overpaid with this much. I mean, even this amount, he's paid too much. So I was going to ask you, like, he's got 0 points his last 7 games. Was he playing with Heineman before? Like, what was his primary line?
Heineman and Armia. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you're going to see him get 0 zip without that guy. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens. I think he'll fall back to his normal means, but he's a workman-like guy, and he's a guy that you can trust, but I just don't know if you're going to count on him for offense the way he got. I think he got paid based upon a blip,
Yeah, like, I think the reasoning, Michael, is like you overpaid just a smidge, and I think the idea here is that you have Beck coming, like you mentioned Beck earlier. You've got Kapanen coming up, But Montreal is in a position, and you could probably relate to this with Detroit and other rebuilding teams, right? So let's say Montreal takes a step this year, but they don't re-sign. And say what you want about Dvorak, right? But he's an experienced NHL guy, over 50% playoff face-off guy. So all of a sudden let's say you don't sign Evans or Dvorak, you bring in Beck and Kapanen next year, and listen, do they project to be comparable, if not better players than Jake Evans? Absolutely, right? But in the short term, Montreal doesn't necessarily want to take a step back next year, and integrating a guy like Beck immediately, being your top PK guy, taking like critical face-offs in the defensive zone at the end of a game, like these are pretty critical things, right? If you want to have a winning team, and Montreal's not going to want to take a step back next year. And one comparable that you would have is this summer. They looked at their situation on defense and they're like, okay, you know what? If we want to give Barron, Mayu, and Reinbacher and those guys a chance, we're just going to move out Kovacevic because we need to make room. And I think for all of us at the time thought, you know what, that makes sense. Like they got to make room for these young guys. But then it didn't work out, right? Like Mayu wasn't ready, Reinbacher gets hurt, and and everything else, right? So all of a sudden now you're back in the marketplace looking for a new Kovacevic. Now, luckily, they're able to find a great deal, Carrier, like you mentioned, great fit, and that's worked out really well. But I would prefer, so a deal like this, it allows you a little bit of flexibility. If Beck comes in and steals the job away from Evans, fantastic. Like what I think your objective is with this game, with this deal, is don't make it so you couldn't move it 3 years from now. So as long as there's no movement clauses or anything crazy like that, maybe you front load the deal with more cash in front so that you can make it a bit easier to move down the line. Montreal isn't really pinched for cap space right now. They might be, like when they start getting out of the entry level deals for Hudson, for Demidov, like that's going to start getting a little bit trickier, right? But for now, cap space is not an issue. And what Evans does, he comes in, gives you that stability, insulates those young centers coming in, and allows Montreal to not take a step back next year. Because that's what you see with a lot of rebuilding teams, right? Like you think you've taken a step forward, where you're like, okay, great, let's start integrating some of these young pieces, and then whoop, you take a step back. So I think Montreal wants to kind of ride that fine line between integrating young players, but also keep the program moving forward. And I think this kind of deal allows for that. And last thing is, Michael, as you know, is percentage of cap, right? 3.5 looks like a lot, but if you're Jake Evans' agent, 3.5 with the new salary cap that we know is going to be going up is probably the equivalent of about 2.5 for somebody that signed that like during COVID, right? So 3.5 might seem like a smidge high, but if the equivalent, like if it's like the American to Canadian currency exchange, right? Like if you're looking at this under the new cap, the percentage on the cap for 3.5 is going to be very comparable to a fourth line center that was getting paid like 2 to 2.5 million.
Yeah, I mean, listen, this guy's not a 20 goal scorer. He's got 10 goals, which is an outsized year for me. He had 9 all last year. He's typically under 10. He had 1 13-goal season. So I guess he's not getting younger. He's 28. So I think if he's getting 4 years at 3.5, you'll survive it probably. And he contributes in a lot of other ways. But he's getting overpaid. I mean, there's no doubt about that. That's not a 3.5 million. It's not the end of the world, but
do you think it's what does a 20 goal scorer get paid in the NHL now? Do you think
he's not a 20 goal scorer? He's never going to be. He'll get 12. Like 20 goals will get you 4 million. Like if you that's what
I'm saying. You're comparing. You're saying like he's never.
He's not.
Well,
he's
so
not,
that's
he's
fine.
Not a 20 goal scorer. he's getting paid for a blip.
Well, that's what I'm telling you. Like then we're saying the same thing. Like. If he was a 20 goal scorer, then he'd be getting paid even more than this, right? So,
like I think you look at guys like Sprong playing for $2 million a year, and he's an 18 goal scorer. You look at Perron is what, $5 million, and he's like an 18 goal guy, but he gets 55 points, and he's playing power play. So
Sprong,
it just depends.
I don't know if that's the greatest. Like Sprong is a very one-dimensional player, right? Agents are going to have all kinds of other metrics that they're going to show and use. Like I said, like there's certain things you can't deny. Evans leads the NHL in PK minutes, right? His face-off percentage is routinely close to like 55%, like 50 to 55%, right?
That's what he is. He's a utility guy. Like he's like a fourth line utility guy that can maybe flex to third, but it's not going to make your team fall off the face of the planet. Like talent is what drives the needle right now, and you can see teams that have talent gap, not work gap. There's lots of guys that'll work and do those jobs. Like
you wouldn't say culture is as important as talent.
Montreal's got you could remove Jake Evans because he wants to make $4.5 million. Their culture is not going to fall apart. I mean, that's the most cultured franchise probably in the whole league. But
yeah,
here's my biggest concern for Jake Evans for me, guys, is this way.
Is this what?
Yeah, my biggest concern. Look, he have 10 goals this year. Right now, 42 games. So he's going to be like, if everything look good, he should be over 15 goals. But he has right now, guys, 23.8% shooting. And this is it's not supposed that way, right? The best, the best is 14 usually, 13, 14, 15, an average in NHL is about 10.5, I believe it is. So he's double the number. So this is a rare exception for me, for Jake Evans.
Goalies say 90.
That's the reason for me. I will not go that direction 100%. For Jake Evans.
I don't think anybody.
The average save percentage is 91, right? So the average shooter is 9%. He ain't a 28% shooter.
I don't think anybody has any illusions that Jake Evans has came out of his cocoon and all of a sudden has evolved into a different player that he's been over his career. Like I think we have seen gradual progression with him in terms, but like you said, Michael, like it's more in taking responsibility, critical roles in the game. Like he's evolved as a player, as a utility player, and there's value to that. So, ultimately, like I said, for Montreal, I think the value there is to insulate younger guys coming in. He's grown to be a leader on the team as well too. And again, you have to be strong down the middle. Montreal next year have 2 UFA out of their current 4 centers. They have 2 of them, and we're not even 100% sure Doc is a center yet, guys. Right? We can't forget that. Like Doc is playing better, but we're still not 100% sure he's going to be a center.
Marko, I think Alex Newhook is going to be the center number 3 for Montreal if they don't have Jake Evans. I think that would be fixed perfect. And the trade I'm going to make the next 20 minutes here from Montreal, that will fix the problem. But we have to wait for that trade to announce to you later.
I'm not a believer in Newhook as Montreal's next third line center. I'm a believer in him being the third line winger, the third line winger, but not the third line center. His face-off percentage, again, coach, like if like Evans, you have to think if you're taking Evans out, who's taking those critical defensive zone face-offs with like 1 minute left? Who's taking that?
Suzuki.
Well, you don't want Suzuki taking all those defensive zone draws, though. Why would you want him doing that?
Because
anyways, this is a good deal if he stays. It's fine.
I wouldn't be worried about Owen Beck.
Well, Owen
Beck's going to bully his way onto your lineup. I think he might have a blip down, but that's what you want. He's going to be cheap for like 2 more years. And is it 1 or 2 more years? Maybe it's because he's 20. So it's probably 2 more years. So that's fine. He's not. It'll balance out, and he'll just take the job. He'll do more than Evans. Like his upside is like he's like Nate Danielson. Does this guy like going to be a third or a second line? That's what you're figuring out. It's not. Is he a fourth?
I think what they want to see is they want Beck to come in. Like they don't want the same situation as Kovacevic. They don't want to just assume Beck is going to come in and do it. With having Evans there, I don't think this contract makes it impossible for them to move him if they need to. Let Beck come in. If I think if we all would be thrilled if Beck comes in and automatically becomes Montreal's third line center. Fantastic. And then at that point you can look at moving Evans if you need to.
You don't even know. Maybe Demidov becomes a center.
That would be awesome.
That could really change
things. That would be an option for another conversation for Demidov, but this could happen at some point
Right.
about that for sure. The next thing, guys, about David Rebecca. One thing, Marco, I don't know, maybe Michael know him, but one thing is the reputation of Jack Ramsey. Is it Jack his first name?
Yeah.
Right? So he's been a coach for the trainer, mid-skull for the Ranger for 25 years in NHL. And one thing he does is, the player have a quicker recovery or faster usually. And this is happening right now with David Rebecca. He was skating today, the last couple of days, and said that it's not going to be next week. He's going to return with Montreal Canadiens, but he's in advance of his recovery of his injury. So that's a good news to hear that about David Rebecca. And we'll see what's happening to him the next couple of weeks. But it's good news for the Montreal to see David Rebecca full gear and skating right now at the practice Montreal. Evan Demidov got going to be at the KHL All-Star game.
good.
Demidov, good news for the young men. Play tomorrow morning at 11:30 again. Another late night for me for Demidov. Demidov is scored another big goal last game for Demidov, honestly. And he has 14 goals for him. And he's going to be on the ice tomorrow. So Demidov is just a big news right there. Don't want to say too much about this. We talk about Demidov every day. But that's good for him to be on that part of the KHL. But we want to talk about this. Can you stick with the plan? And that's how we refer with Michael Devellano also. Is going to give us a bit more his experience with the Detroit Red Wings. And if you think that would be it was the right things to do or not. But first, we're going to start with Ken about this, Marco, with Kent Hughes. What is stick with the plan? And the plan right now is about it at the trade deadline for the Montreal Canadiens. And then the UFA, the trade, and Mika Rantanen. So, Marco, you're going to go through with that. And then, Marco, you're going to talk about the Detroit Red Wings. And I don't remember, I could be wrong here, but you have a specific year where the Detroit have a really good year, where they was and I think it was 3 years ago. I think they was in the mix, or they missed the playoff by a couple of points.
Last year.
And do you think they make some change, or do you think it was benefit, or they would be a little bit, they go too fast to sign player like a Chariot and everything like that, older players to get that. So that would be my next question for you, Michael, after Marco finished with the Kent Hughes situation. Second plan, people in the chat, tell me what do you think, what the Montreal should do for the next couple of weeks. Of course, the 20 game in front of us going to give a little bit more indication, Marco, the situation for the mix. But stay under your mind, Marco, they are going to be in the mix. Does it make sense? So that will make the subject exactly what we're trying to talk about.
Yeah, no, for sure. Like, I think Kent Hughes is pretty clear in his mid-season, press conference that he wants this. Like, he's thrilled with kind of how things are going. But January, there's 20 games. January is an absolute gauntlet, not just for Montreal, like for all the teams, right? But Montreal is essentially playing. Yeah, it's nuts, man. Like, so. January is kind of like December was a really hard calendar, but if we look and so far Montreal's killing it. Like a coach, I think you had it like Montreal. They're playing 14 games in January, so we wanted them at least to be 500 to have 7 wins, in January to kind of stay in there. And right now they already have 5 wins, 5-1, I think, right? 4-1-1. So. They're really on track for exceeding that target, right? So if Montreal can get out of this out of January and still be kind of where they are, I find, like, I've been on the record, like, to me, Montreal is no longer in the asset collection business, and when I say asset collection, I mean like 3rd round pick, 4th round picks. Like, Montreal, not only do they have a whole bunch of picks coming up over the next 2 years, let's not forget they've already made like 1,000 picks in the last 3-4 seasons too, right? So you can only have 50 contracts on an NHL team. So I don't think Montreal at this point, like, it's going to be a calculation between, there's no question we can move David Savard there's going to be a lot of interested teams that are looking to add some depth on their defense. But if you're just getting a third round pick, then what are we doing here? Like the message that you're sending to the dressing room is not good. Even Dvorak, guys, like I know people hate Dvorak here in Montreal. Yeah, but if you take away the money, anyways, I'm not going to get into Dvorak, but again, if you're trading Dvorak for a 4th round pick, why not keep him around?
Take it.
Why though? Why? Like, but again, what message are you sending? What message are you sending to the team, Michael? Like you're in the mix.
He's very replaceable for a lot less money.
But why? Like for this season, why do you care about the team much? Yeah, but he's also like killing penalties. Is
he UFA?
Yeah. So you just let him walk. It does, like, you're getting a 3rd or 4th round pick. He's a UFA. It's like, to me, it's like a reward. It's like a risk, not risk reward, but like, what are you getting back from trading this guy versus what advantage or what pluses are just to keep him around the team to allow them a chance. No, I don't think so. But again, let him walk. It doesn't really matter. You'd rather just have him stay with the team, help him compete for a playoff spot. That way you can keep Beck and Laval. We already established that they want Laval to do well. So just keep him where he is and let him walk to free agency. So, but if they fall right out of it, coach, like if let's say, they end up where Buffalo is right now, like everything falls apart, then it's a different situation, right? Like maybe you're looking at kind of, okay, like you might as well get some assets out of it. And you're not necessarily going to reward the team for keeping guys like that around. So that's for the trade deadline. For me, the biggest mistakes in hockey are made on July 1st. UFA is a very, very dangerous and perilous thing. Like, look at Nashville. Like every year, panelists like us say, like, oh my God, they're the big winner of the summer with all these big signings, but it rarely turns out to be a good thing. So I'm not a huge fan of signing for UFAs. Again, like Rantanen is a special player, but you better be prepared to pay him like $14 million, right? Especially if you're going to have him in Montreal, you're going to be paying top dollar for him to come. So I don't see that happening, anything like that. To me, I like those more mid-tier. I love, like, if there is a player that I would overpay for, it would be Sam Bennett. But I would be shocked. Like, it's every team in the NHL is going to be in on Sam Bennett if he doesn't sign for Florida.
Is he a 93 birth year?
I think so, yeah. I think he's going to be 28.
No, because he's 96. So because he's the same age, he's a year older than McDavid.
10 years after that.
Yeah, because he's like McDavid's 97. Yeah. So it's getting up there.
Yeah. So I don't see anything on the UFA, coach. Like, I think so. This whole topic is about whether Kent Hughes is going to stay on the plan, right? So we know the plan this year is Montreal is learning how to win hockey games. They're continuing to develop these young players, putting them hopefully in a situation where they can learn by playing some meaningful hockey. And most importantly, they're evaluating the players that they have. Kirby Dach being suspect number one. Evaluating, is Kirby Dach a legitimate center, and is he going to be playing second line center for you? I think we're all happy that Kirby Dach is playing better. But he still hasn't convinced me that he's a center.
There's a lot. He needs time still to figure things out, but
I still like, even at his optimal level, I don't see him being a center. I see him as a winger. So to me, and let's say you do have Dach. Okay, let's say you pencil in, and you're keeping Evans, and then Owen Beck is also a right-hand guy. Kapanen is right-handed. Montreal needs a left-hand shot center to play in their top 9 here, guys. For me, that's the biggest gap in their system here, is they need a quality second line left-handed shot center. So to me, that's what I would be shopping for if I'm Kent Hughes this summer. I've said here before, like, to me, the optimal target, I'm not saying that this player is on the market, but a Mason McTavish-ish kind of guy to come in and play behind Suzuki is the right kind of guy that I would be targeting. But I'm not sure if he's going to be on the market. But somebody like that, like to me, he's the next kind of Sam Bennett kind of guy. So I think that's going to be their approach, Coach. Yes, they're sticking to the plan, but like Ken Hughes has said, guys, like the plan is not set in stone, right? Like they're flexible. Like it's not like they have every single move planned out over the next 3 years. They're evaluating what they see. They're changing kind of like the direction that they're going. Like Martin Saint Louis always says, like you play the game that's in front of you, right? Well, it's the same thing if you're Ken Hughes. You play the cards that are dealt, and as things evolve, as you get more answers on the players that you have, then things become more clear, and it illuminates your path forward in terms of what you need to do to construct the roster moving forward. So I guess, Michael, what Coach wanted us to kind of explore here is Montreal's in the situation where, okay, so they're having a little bit of success. They're seemingly taking a bit of a step forward. We know that Detroit, for whatever reason, Yzerman felt like he wanted to give his young players a bit more time, and he felt so he decided to bring in some UFAs like Kopp, Sherratt, guys like that. So, tell us a little bit about that process and what you think Detroit learned from that, and how that can be applied to what Kent Hughes has in front of him here this summer in Montreal.
Laval scored 3-2.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, if you look back when they brought Comp and then Comfer in, they had nobody. Like the cupboard was empty. It was like bare, Raymond Sider graduated. So now there's obviously a lot of prospects. Not everyone's bubbled to the top, but you can see Marko Kasper's legit. Like he's been playing very well. They've even moved him up to the top line. He's had two 2-point games in a row. So you're like, okay, good. That guy's going to pan out. What will he be? It's unclear, but he can play. He's got talent. He's got speed. He's got grit. And then you got to hope Danielson is in that same boat. Fans were probably tricked last year into thinking this was a playoff team. They're a bubble team. I don't think he has any delusions otherwise. A lot of pieces changed. Like those, 5 guys in particular that changed really affected them. Like the Wallman deal, I think, was because they were trying to get Trouba, so they let him go for nothing. And then Ghost replacing him with Gus looked really, really bad because Gustafsson was absolutely horrible under Lalonde. So obviously,
but Patrick Kane loves Gustafsson. Didn't Patrick Kane recommend Gustafsson because he had him in Chicago? Really liked playing with him.
Yeah, probably. But I mean, I think he was. If you watch him before McClellan and after, like these are not the same player. Like he was horrible. This was like, oh my God, he's playing outside the dots. He can't make a pass. He's horrible offensively. Like, what do you got here? And the defensive liability was just extreme.
Yeah,
so that
we know
that looked terrible. And then Tarasenko had like 4 goals up to that point. Got a 2-goal. They lost, but he got 2 goals last night. So that's a positive sign. He's meshed with Berger, and they buried Bergeron. And I knew they were going to do this because, like, when I talked to them in the summer, they're like, well, whose job is Bergeron going to take? And you could already see they were already slotting Bergeron in 3rd and 4th line. I'm like, my point was, why you've seen him play in the first line and he doesn't hurt the first line. Like, you want to get balanced scoring. You can't stick him on the 4th line. It's not going to work. And they just stuck him in there. So you could see McClellan right away. Moves Bergeron up, gives Veleno a chance. So it was just like there's lots of
line, right? He put Veleno right on the top line.
Put Veleno on the top line, and then he just put Kasper on the top line, and he's tried Rasmussen on the top line, and all of them shown they can play to some extent. So he gets a lot more out of his lineup. So that being said, they don't have like. They have a number 1 and a number 1B defenseman right now, which is phenomenal. Like Edvinsson is absolutely everything you want him to be. There's not much difference between him and Owen Power at this point, who went first in that draft. So which is kind of what you projected. Like you thought, Power's got a little bit more offense, but Edvinsson's way meaner, and he grew 2 inches since then. So he's actually an inch taller than Owen Power. So that's turned out great. And now you got ASP. Like, so what are you going to do? You're going to start trading guys like ASP? You're going to start trading guys like Danielson or Kasper? Like, but that's what people are talking about because they get impatient, right? Whereas the GM knows, like, no, these guys they're not even really hitting their stride
So
yet.
your theory of the case, Michael, is it's hard to compare kind of what Yzerman did because, and I've made that argument here before, like that when Kent Hughes and Gordon got here, it wasn't a traditional tear down rebuild.
There
They
was
had
nothing.
Suzuki. No, like in Detroit, yeah, and Buffalo, like look at Chicago, right? Chicago, well, they stripped it down so much they had a 21-year-old center and they traded him to Montreal, Kirby Dach. So they really literally stripped it down to the studs.
Brandon Hagel, like, look at the Hagel deal. That's like, Jesus, like, even when that happened, remember, Kane and Taves were like, I thought we wanted to get younger. Isn't this guy young? Like, why are we trading this guy? But yeah, I think Detroit was like absolutely at ground zero. It was stripped. So when he brought him Comp and Comfer, these are like guys that have ties to Michigan. They're buddies. They're tied to Dylan Larkin. He's trying to keep Larkin happy because he realizes, well, there's one guy right now. There's just Dylan Larkin. There's no goalies. There's no defensemen. And that was just the reality. And no matter what, Dylan Larkin's going to be 6 to 9 years older than anyone that's around when this team becomes competitive.
Yeah.
So you're hoping that his speed and everything will, you got to show Dylan Larkin there's a reason to stay here.
Yeah, his wheels are not going to fall off, right? Like
that's
to me, that's what Laval ties it up 3-3. Boom. Michael, we have a question actually here from the chat from Nicholas. Michael, do you think Yzerman lets players play too long in the NHL generally? Like speaking now, because we know Detroit has that history. Like back in the day, like of letting their younger players percolate in the AHL much longer than the other NHL teams. So do you think they're kind of like keeping players there too long, or what's your feel on that for Detroit right now?
So I guess I would argue like who, because Bergeron was kept down maybe too long because he just ripped up he ripped up the AHL, had no business being down there. But he brought in veteran guys to make them more competitive. And to coach's point, they missed the playoffs by 1 point, not even like 1 point in the last day. I don't even know if it was a point. I think it was like the differential between wins and losses. So I think that's why they missed, thanks to John Tortorella, the last day of the season, right? They won that last game and still missed the playoffs. So they did everything they could. So that worked, right? Like they made a significant jump every year, if you look, and they did it with some veteran guys. So I'm trying to think of who they left down too long. Like maybe Bergeron is the only person you could argue. Casper is 20 years old. He's a 2004 birth year. He had a really good camp last year. He had a horrible camp last year. Went to the AHL, looked horrible, and then by the end of the year was the best player in the AHL. He had a really good camp this year. They sent him down for 6 games. It was obvious that he needed to come back, and he didn't produce, but now he's producing, right? So I think that's the progression you want. Simon Edmondson, arguably last year, could have played the whole season. Is it damaged him? No, he's a very good defenseman. This is like, I've done this comparison on. If you go through all 32 NHL teams, Simon Edmondson is a 2 or a 3 on pretty much every team. There's no team that I see where he's a 4. Maybe Vegas, right? Depending on how you look at the depth. So, I mean, that worked, right? He's 20. He's the same age as, Owen Power. So is he 21, 22? So I don't know. And if you look at what Nate Danielson is very similar to Owen Beck. Owen Beck has better offensive numbers right now in the AHL. Nate Danielson's got 3 goals. So you could know, Nate Danielson's making good plays. He's playing 200 feet. He's fast. He's big. He's got 3 goals. Like, what's he going to get in the NHL? He's going to have to learn how to do more than, he's got.
It's his skating, right? Like with Danielson's his skating. His skating.
He's a great skater. Are you kidding? He's so fast. Oh my, his strength is his skating. Yeah. Nate, that's what people don't understand. Like, he is an above average skater. I'm not saying he's elite, but he's above average. So his speed is there. The problem with him is he gets the puck and he distributes it and he protects it. And in junior, he could get away with it and create his own shot that way. but he's not a tic-tac-toe guy. He's setting up a play and someone's scoring. So he's actually a very good playmaker.
Distributor.
I don't know. He's going to have to learn how to score at the pro level, because if you always have the puck, you're going to not be able to score a lot, which is it's a good thing. But he's going to have to also learn that. I think that's his learning curve, right? He's going to have to learn how to shoot more, and he's going to have to learn how to tic-tac-toe with line mates. He's a very good skater. He's a big player, and he's very, very
he's
smart.
a gamer too. Like
he's
from
a
the
gamer.
Yeah. From the
But
viewings I've
is
seen,
he in the NHL? We thought so, but now look, he's got 3 goals. So it's not. Give him some time. Let him stay down there. And then they've also got the Russian kid Bukelnevic. Like, he's in KHL. Maybe he comes over next year. Maybe he starts in the AHL. I don't know. It's not for sure. So again, he's made it so that guys have to steal other guys' jobs to get on the team.
I like that. I think
Probably
that's
the way
the
to do
way.
it.
I agree, man. So, Coach,
And
I think
frankly,
that,
ISP, who they got on D, I don't know. They need more D, shockingly.
Yeah. So, Coach, I think our conclusion here after doing the exercise, I don't know how much I know you're in the chat there, but I think it's hard to compare Montreal and Detroit to rebuild, to be honest. Like, I don't know if there's a lot of lessons you can learn there, because like Michael points out, right? Like, it's Montreal, I think, had a bit of a head start in their rebuild. Like Kent Hughes, Jeff Gordon, they already had Gooley, they already had Suzuki, they already had Caulfield in the system, right? So that's already a pretty good core, right? To play with.
It's a time thing, right? Like, there's an analogy, which is Suzuki and Larkin. There's parity there. Caulfield and Raymond. There's parity there, but there's an age difference, right?
Yeah.
So there's a time difference. You've got Sider. I don't know if you have a Sider.
But Yzerman,
right?
But my point is that those guys like
it's a time thing.
Sider and Raymond weren't there when Yzerman got there, right?
Correct,
he drafted those. So that's what I'm saying. Like he didn't have any of those.
Like,
so Kent Hughes,
there's comparable players, but man, there's no.
Yeah,
he wasn't given much.
For sure. So it's really hard to compare the rebuilds. Like, it's So I think every rebuild, every situation is different. Like we've talked about this before. Like, the NHL is a copycat league, and obviously teams are looking for templates they can use. But there's different ways to skin a cat. Like, look at Vegas. Like, they did not draft and develop, right? Like, they traded their way.
Nobody.
They don't have anybody that they drafted. It's
not a single player. Maybe Dorofeyev, right? Like, Dorofeyev might be the first prospect they've ever had.
Is that wild? Plays. Yeah.
That's like, and Suzuki's gone, Brandstrom hasn't turned out, Cody Glass hasn't turned out. Well, and Nick Hague, right? Which was like a second round pick. So it's like maybe 2 guys.
Yeah.
So
and not
Vegas
to mention all the picks too, like not just players they drafted, but and Coach has kind of broken down Florida too, right? Like, Florida, they have three core pieces that are drafted by them. Barkov, after Ekblad, and then other than that, and Lundell. And so after that, though, it's all trade, right? So, so again, there's different models. So, to me, how Montreal approaches this summer, they have tons. I saw somebody mention, I think it was like a Habby Nation or somebody like that mentioned it. You want options. Ken Hughes has tons of different options. He has so many assets. He has 2 first-round picks going into the draft. So, yeah. So they have their own. And then, Michael, we're on Calgary Flames watch here. Coach stays up most days watching Calgary Flames because
they get that.
We got the Monahan trade. We got the Calgary pick, and if Calgary finishes out of the top 10, then we get their pick. But if they finish in the bottom 10, then it changes to Florida's pick. So we're all Calgary Flames fans this season.
Well, I mean, they're playing pretty well. There's another team that they're getting good production from a lot of guys, which is positive. Even Huberdeau's figured out a role there.
Yeah. Yeah,
He's the goal scorer.
I think he's in the category of like bounce back candidates of the
A
year.
little
You know,
bit.
like he's not at the, you know, like yeah, it's crazy to think that he set the record for scoring in the NHL by a left winger only what,
Yeah.
like 3 years ago or 4 years ago, whatever it was. And you know, if he can get to 70 points, then yeah, like I think we know the secret sauce behind how he got there now. But
Maybe.
yeah, no, it's still a good rebound for him.
They're doing well.
Yeah, so we're all
I mean,
rooting for
Dustin Wolf. I think you've got to look at Dustin Wolf and go, this is
Calder Trophy
how can you
nominee for
not? He's 15-6-2 guys and a 9-16.
yeah. He's not even on people, like people aren't even talking about him for Calder.
That makes no sense. He's on pace for 46 games.
Yeah.
Like he'll be a 30-win goalie in Calgary. Like
That's
they're
crazy.
like, come on. This is the guy that was a 4th last draft pick in the NHL. And the guy that was picked ahead of him, the other goalie, was Spencer Knight.
That's
and I
insane.
say ahead of him because they were the 2 U.S. goalies. Like Spencer Knight goes in the first round. And Spencer was really, by the way, I was at that draft. I think Coach was. Spencer was awesome to Dustin at the draft. He was just like, yeah, you're going to be good. You're going to get picked. It'll work out. Like they just don't know how good you are. Like I remember him talking to him. And Spencer was very calm about it. You know, yeah. Spencer's got his own, like the OCD thing is really challenging, I guess, for him. I didn't realize that at the time.
Yeah.
But you know, that was the guy that was like in the NHL right away.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
No, Dustin Wolf is not on your friggin' radar. Like
he's got to be like, to me, I have him over Michkov. You know, so
it's
for
hard,
me,
I
like, to me, like you can't undervalue, like, you know, we're a little bit biased obviously with Hudson, but you know, guys playing like over 20 minutes a game, is controlling games, his, you know, like his plus minus is deceiving because I think there's like 6 of his minus that are from empty nets because he's always on the ice when Montreal has the goalie pulled, right? So really he's close to being more of like an even player than a minus player. So you know,
do you want to hear all the goalies that went ahead of Dustin Wolf?
Let's do it. I'm curious.
It's way longer than I realized. I'm going to do a speed round, okay?
Yeah.
Yurchenko to St. Louis, Trent Miner, Philip Lindbergh, Carter Gylander, Rhodey Ross, Dominic Bass, Artur Silovs, who we have seen in the NHL, Ethan Hayter, Logan Neaton. Tell me if you've noticed any of you guys in the NHL because I haven't. Frederick Dickow. Sorry, but that's how you say his name. Isaiah Seville, Cole Brady, Colton Ellis, Lucas Parik, or Parik, he's the Czech goalie, Ilya Konovalov, which is Edmonton, Hugo Anfeld, still a 0, 1 NHL game, and then Eric Portillo. Oh, and Hunter Jones and Matt Sogard. Okay, this one turned out, which is the Kochakov kid in Carolina.
Yeah.
Right? He was in the second round.
Portillo is like playing in the AHL. He's played a couple of NHL games.
Yeah, we'll see, right?
Yeah.
All and of course Spencer Knight, all picked ahead of Dustin Wolf in that draft.
Wow.
All right, the next thing, guys, about the parity, the mediocrity, and the Eastern Conference. I would like to hear what you think about that. We know what's happening on this, and on the race or the mix or the race or the wild card and NHL, and what you feel about that situation. I put a picture somewhere. I cannot find it anymore, so it's not like I don't know where I put it. But what do you feel about that situation on the Eastern Conference, guys? The fact like you have a 7-team right now battle for the 8th spot. This is rare, but I think this is the first year where they had spent about 5 to 7 points between the different people. So what do you feel about that, Marko?
Yeah, the reason I wanted to talk about this, you know, like listening to other podcasts, you know, it's so interesting to me, right? Like, oh, Laval takes the lead.
4-3.
Jared Davidson with the overtime goal. Boom. There you go. Nice. We were just talking about Jared Davidson earlier.
Oh, my player.
Yes. Very nice. Yeah, so this has been driving me nuts, guys. Like, you know, I feel that, you know, I always hear, you know, different kind of talking heads, you know, on different podcasts talking about how, you know, the players, like all these teams they're terrible teams. Like they're all mediocre
Who's
teams.
terrible?
Yeah, like so, and that's my thing,
It's
right?
better
Is
than the West. Go look
yeah,
at the West and tell me who the bottom 4 teams are. And they're
exactly. So,
Nashville
but
sucks for a reason. San Jose,
people,
Chicago.
yeah, but people. So again, people are looking at the top teams in the West, and they're like, it's not even close, right? Like the elite teams are in the West, but they're playing those bottom 4 teams, right? Like
That's it.
that's so, like so to
Right?
me, it's not about mediocrity. There's just a lot of parity here, and like we anticipated it was going to be like this, right? Like even if you look at the Eastern Conference last year, there is a huge gap between the Bostons, the Tampas, and the Floridas, and the Torontos in the Atlantic, and the top teams in the Metro, because you still had teams like Montreal, Ottawa that were struggling and everything else. But right now you have these teams that are really competitive guys. Like anybody can beat anybody any given night. Now, of course, like for me, I don't see any downside with having having parity in the NHL. Like
That's the whole point.
like that's
Of a
a,
salary
like do you really there's some people like having these super teams, right? Like they want all these superstars to play together, and like I just don't think that they understand that these teams, like yes, every team has holes, right? With a salary cap, it's going to be impossible for a team not to have a perfect team where you have 25 goal scorers on your third line, and every team is going to have imperfections. But that's the beauty of a general manager, right? Is trying to put together the best roster you can with the same rules as everybody else in the NHL, right? So to me, it's obviously there's some markets, like we often talk about the tax shelters, like in tax free states and everything else. There are disadvantages for sure for Canadian markets and things like that. But overall, it's I think a lot of people that criticize this parity don't remember what it was like. And Michael, you might not like this, but back in the day when Detroit, could just
horrible.
basically buy, you could buy every kind of like retiring, kind of like Hall of Fame player, like you're getting a Luke Robitaille, and players like that on your fourth line to go for a cup run and pay him, way above. So if that's the kind of NHL that you want, if you want the NBA, like you can have a luxury tax, or if you want Major League Baseball. But to me, I love this coach, like having the parity, and I just find it frustrating when it's crazy to me. Like if you watch some of the other podcasts, like it's they're so quick to call teams terrible just because they don't have a 100-point player on them, and I just find that so infuriating.
How many teams have that now? Like none.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know, Michael. Like this is a really unique situation, right? Like with so many teams, like coach is saying here for the wild card. But like tell us a little bit, like if you're Vegas, like if you look at Vegas.
Think about this. A year ago, where were the Rangers?
Yeah.
The Rangers on paper, you're like, man, that team is so close to winning a cup. They got the best goalie. They got Adam Fox. They've got Keandre Miller. They got Trouba. They got all these pieces, right? And not going to make the playoffs, or maybe, like right now everyone's piling on Mika Zibanejad and Chris Kreider, and Kreider's still on pace for 34 goals. Like he's doing what he always does. Pittsburgh has enough holes to be a problem, right? Philadelphia, weird makeup of the team, right? Like they have one guy and then some other guys, and
no goalie.
They got Konechny and no. I mean, that really hurt them. If they had Carter, that would probably be a different team. That's when we talk about taking one or two pieces. If for whatever else is going on off the ice, if you have Carter Hart in that team, that's a playoff team. That's how weird it is right now, right? Like to have a goalie of that caliber. Detroit goes from this season's over, let's get a top 5 pick, which is kind of what I was hoping. Like keep Lalonde, just keep Lalonde there, because you're like, well, we don't have a Michael Misa, we don't have a Frendell, we don't have that talent, right? And that's always going to be a ceiling. So I'm like arguing, like just leave the guy there, let it rot. Really, no, you can see one guy comes in, makes a few changes, it's not that bad of a roster, right? So I would argue that if you look at the rosters of Ottawa, you look at the rosters of Columbus or Montreal, you go, I like this guy, I like this guy, I like this guy, and they plug a lot of holes. And the only team that maybe in my mind doesn't do that is Philadelphia. And Pittsburgh's got some weird stuff, but Rickard Reichel's got 25 goals. Like you go to Michael Bunting's on pace for like 28 goals. Like it's not a totally junk roster. You still have two elite guys, and they just honestly the difference there might be goaltending. We might find out that was goaltending, right? It's like everyone looks horrible when there's a couple pieces missing. If you go on the West, Seattle is mid. I can't see them keeping the GM. Like writing was on the wall before he was ever hired, in my opinion. Like he didn't horse trade like George McPhee did, right? George McPhee was aggressive, and to our point, like how do you get Alex Pietrangelo and Jack Eichel and all these guys on your team? They don't have any of that. They give Matty Beniers $7 million, and he's like still a 15 goal scoring guy. Like, they're very mid. San Jose's rebuilding. Like, yes, they got Celebrini and Will Smith is coming along, but he's got parts. It just shows you can put parts in, but they're not a great team. And Chicago arguably is worse, right? So I think over on the West, you have 4 teams legitimately that would still be the bottom on the East. And I think that just goes right to the top line. I think the top teams get those extra points and they look so much better.
Yeah, I agree 100%, Michael. Like it's, like on paper, like if I'm sure mostly odds makers would probably pick like, a lot of podcasts have like their power ranking, and almost the top 5 of all the power rankings have almost all Western teams because they're just looking at the points and they're looking at the records. But you have to.
But the number 1 team in the NHL is Washington, right?
Absolutely.
Like Washington Capitals are the best team in the NHL.
Yeah, and like we're talking about how there's not one specific way to build a winning team. That's another way, right? Like we talk about Vegas. Okay, so you just trade and buy your way to like a good roster, and then you have Florida, shrewd trades, and then again, like I was saying how I'm really nervous about UFA, but Washington, like they signed a couple of smart UFAs. They didn't go for the big ticket items like Nashville. And the blend, they went out, make a couple of like ballsy trades, like with Pierre-Luc Dubois, right? That traded, by the way, has worked out great for both teams. Like Kempfer's killing it in LA, and so so there's not just one way to do things, like we mentioned. But as I just wanted to address that, Coach, because it bugs me when I hear experts talking about how all these teams that are clustered in this race right now are mediocre teams. I don't think so. I just think that there's a lot of parity in the NHL, and I think we're lucky to follow such an amazing race and to follow Montreal. Like I miss I forgot what it was like to scoreboard watch, right? Like having my apps open and checking the scores, and I've always watched a lot of different games because I love hockey, and if you're in hockey pools, you're checking how players are doing, but now you're scoreboard watching and you're watching a whole bunch of different games. Like Michael, I've watched so many Detroit games in the last month. Doom watching. I'm Doom watching.
Before December 26th, I was like, I'm just gonna watch Edmonton. I'm give up. I'm done because it was so horrible to watch. It was just so bad. But I think if you look at, for example, Columbus, and you look at that roster, you're going to go down it and you're going to see like, wow, I really like this guy and I really like that guy. Like, oh, Kent Johnson's having a great year and Adam Ventili's putting up some points and Kirill Marchenko is like way better than I realized.
Marchenko low key for me, guys. Breakout, like he had a good season last year, but like low key breakout player of the year, man.
And they don't have Johnny Gaudreau. Imagine if they had Gaudreau. They plugged in Sean Monahan, point-a-game player again in the NHL, although he's hurt, I think, right? He's out. Voronkov, he's on pace for 40 goals, Voronkov.
Yeah,
it's
amazing.
It's crazy. Provorov is like on pace for a 40-point season, probably like 35, 40 points. Yeah. Matthew Olivier has 10 points. Like, what's going on? And even though he doesn't have a lot of points, Van Riemsdyk's been very good.
Yeah, to me, the question for Columbus was going to be goaltending, but Elvis staying in the building most nights, which is a good change. Staying in the building. So
when you look at this, I see another. I see this with the other lens, in my opinion. You talk about this, Marko and Michael. You talk about Columbus, Ottawa, Montreal, Detroit, Philadelphia. Pittsburgh. Now the Rangers is an exception, I believe, of those
It's
teams right
weird.
there, right? Rangers should be higher. Something
Should be.
happened, and sometime every year, and in NHL, always a team struggle. Like they got a bad year.
Contract.
The
New
Devils,
Jersey. Yeah,
yeah,
last year. Yeah.
exactly.
Jersey's so good.
So,
But
yeah,
last year, you see, every year there was a team that, for whatever reason, just face plants.
yeah,
Yeah.
Well, look at what they did. Like Luke Hughes cannot get in the top 4, so they
Yeah.
rebuilt. You know, Hamilton is healthy again. Every other year he's healthy. That's the way he's a difference maker. They got a new coach. They improved the goaltending, right? So they made a lot of changes that we're not maybe recognizing on the back end, and that solidified it. But the Rangers makes no sense. The Rangers, as soon as Igor signs his contract, they go into the tank. So that that's I don't know if there's a coincidence.
I think
there.
the turning point, to be fairness, the turning point there is when Chris Drury sent that memo to all the GMs in the NHL saying that he was willing to trade Kreider. That sense, they already had that weird situation in the off summer where they got rid of Gaudreau, that they weren't really happy. The team, the players weren't happy with how that was handled. So to me, the clear turning point there is how Chris Drury handled that situation with Kreider. Yeah.
But my point behind that,
they were tanking before that, weren't they?
but my point behind that is still the same way, right? Is like the parity is there at some point, but still not there because you have the top of the top always in front of them, right? Like maybe Boston Bruins drop a little bit more, but they are not there yet. The Columbus, Ottawa, Montreal, Detroit, Philadelphia, Pittsburgh to battle with the Tampa Bay, the Carolina, the Toronto, the Florida, everything like that. So all the team we talk about them and the where you see where they at, they missing a piece of the puzzle. Now he make only one or two pieces to change completely the team. Like I think you see what Washington happened last season. So if example,
I mean, you look right now though. Look at how do you not compare that? Calgary is 49 points, right? Vancouver's 48, St. Louis is 46, Utah's 43. I mean, it's the same thing, right? Like they're not competitive with any of the top teams.
Yeah.
Yeah. But my point on that on the Eastern for me is about they still have a couple of pieces to reach the next level to join the Tampa Bay Lightning or the Boston, everything like that. The Boston falling apart right now because honestly, situation with them. But I think overall that would help. That would need Marko, Ottawa, Montreal, Detroit, Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, add some piece of the puzzle to reach those other teams.
But coach, what I mean by parity is that last year, the gap between the teams that you're talking about was way high. So they were winning way more of those games against the bottom teams. This year, Toronto, Florida, Tampa, Boston, they're losing points to the players like Enertop earlier said. Well, you have these teams that are emerging, right? Like Detroit, Montreal, Buffalo. Like Buffalo is supposed to be in that group as well. But that's what I mean by parity.
Yeah,
right? I'm not saying that.
No, on that one you're right. On that one you get the gap is getting closer. I believe that's what you see that.
Yeah,
and
I'm not saying all the teams are even. Like the teams are not all even, but it's the gap is getting a lot narrower than it was.
I take a note, Marko. I'm going to do the next couple of days, not one. I'll give you an answer tomorrow, but maybe the next 4 or 5 days. I will do all the team, the record last year. And the Eastern Conference, what they look like inside the team and inside the division and the other division.
That would be so fascinating to see that. That would be
a little bit an idea what they look like, and that would be a better result. Guys, I have two more subject. I think Marko will help us on that one. But before that, we'll go to the clash. The clash will be a 3 question only tonight, and then we'll go to finish, guys, with NHL Draft 2025, where Marko gave us some option about this. So sitting until 10:30, that will be out after that. So the NHL clash, the clash tonight, guys, is 3 questions. And my first question, Marko is going to like it, and I can wait, Marko, and the people in the chat are going to tell us. Remember, the subject of the night, Marko, is what?
Sticking to the plan.
Here we go. So the first question is this. So Would you do a trade 1-1? Josh Anderson for Ryan O'Reilly. Marco,
Anybody
you're the
would do
first
that.
one right there.
that's not even a comparison.
That's not a hard one. I don't think that's
Easy.
I
Any
don't think
team
it's
would
a hot
love
take.
Ryan O'Reilly.
Yeah, I don't think that's a really tough one. Like, I think, Anderson has re-entered the chat in terms of not being the most hated player on the Montreal Canadiens this year. I think everybody's really happy with the effort that, but again, Ryan O'Reilly is like a gamer. He's a winner. He's a center. That there has been some discussion around whether Nashville is going to move him. But I think, being reunited with Craig Berube in Toronto may not be insane. But yeah, I think that would be a no-brainer. And it'd be a great fit in Montreal, but I'm not going to hold my breath on that one.
It would be interesting to see if he went back to Toronto. I'm trying to think of the tone of my conversation with his mom about this. Definitely like last year, and yeah, it would be interesting to see if Berube changes that, because I don't think that he would have gone back if it was like the other way,
Really?
the other coach, the other environment. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I think he kind of wanted to, but there was just no way he was getting the money, and the money in Nashville made a difference. And this is probably his last. He thought that was probably my last contract, right? And you can see, he's a difference maker. Ideally, he's your second line guy. They didn't have that last year, and you put him on the first line. Like, oh, what? How are we getting 99 points? Well, because he just does all the stuff. He's the best guy off the ice. He's the last guy off the ice. He's a leader that way. And when you see him now, it blows my mind, because he's just like a mountain. So I don't know. This is like a no-brainer.
Yeah. Hopefully your second one is more challenging, Coach. That was pretty easy.
Interesting. You want to trade a player for 34 years old for a 30 years old, Marco?
Yes.
This is not even a comparison. I would take a 42-year-old Ryan O'Reilly for.
He's only got 2 years left, too, right? It's not like he has 5 years. He's got 2 years left on his deal. So, yeah.
And he's physically going to be the best in shape on your entire team as soon as you get him. You're going to get Ryan, and he's going to set a new bar for everybody in Montreal. There's nobody at the level he's at.
Yep.
I don't think Josh Anderson can say that.
26 points this year, Ryan O'Reilly.
Yeah, he's on pace for what he always gets. He'll get 25 goals and 50, 60 points. But it's all the other stuff.
Yeah, it's
if you want to fix your team, any team right now has a problem at second line center, get Ryan O'Reilly. He solves it.
Yeah.
So if you remove the physicality of Josh Anderson, Marco, who is going to bring that physicality for Montreal? Like Anderson beat Trouba. Anderson beat a couple of players this year, and is maybe the best forechecker for the Montreal Canadiens. So what are you going to do for take that spot over there?
He went to Scotia.
Are you saying that Josh Anderson is suddenly irreplaceable for Montreal? I love what Josh Anderson brings this year, and I think again, we're all happy with the role that he's playing on the team, but I don't think he's irreplaceable. I don't think he's somebody that I think you can replace somebody like Anderson. To me, the value that O'Reilly would bring to the Montreal Canadiens, not just in terms of being more competitive right now, but remember we always talked about how Shea Weber left a legacy of leadership, showing guys how to play the right way, the legacy that O'Reilly would leave. Just Suzuki being around a guy like that, it would be immeasurable the benefit that Montreal would have bringing a guy like that into the lineup. So yeah, I wouldn't.
If you do that, do you keep Jake Evans?
Yeah,
no.
One guy's going to play in the second line, and Jake Evans going to play in the fourth line, like he normally does.
It would make
me change. Right. You don't need him.
It would make that decision a lot easier. Right? It would give you more negotiation.
Let me put it this way.
Now, pay attention. I'm not again that trade allowed. I just bring you other point of view. Does that make sense? I don't said I want to keep Josh Anderson over Ryan O'Reilly. No. I just tried to give you
Josh
other.
He's Michael McCarron.
Yeah, objective about that part over there. So
Yeah.
as move
Yeah.
on the
Like
next one.
you would have more luck trading Josh Anderson to Nashville for Michael McCarron. And
But
if you
here's the
took Jake
point behind
Evans,
that, guys.
you could
For
not
me,
get
the
Ryan
deal
O'Reilly.
for Montreal is a good deal because he fit Marko on the
Sure.
window of the 2 years for the Montreal Canadiens, and honestly, is the same salary like Christian Dvorak on the third line.
Yeah, no, like coach, if this like and even if it wasn't Josh Anderson, like if you can get O'Reilly to come to Montreal, I would be willing to give more than Anderson. Like I would be,
You would have
I'd be
to.
willing.
You're-
Yeah, like
You would-
if Ryan O'Reilly is willing to come play for the Montreal Canadiens, you try to make it happen. Like I'm not saying trade, like your own first. Like I would be maybe
Guys.
even open to trading Calgary's first overall pick. Maybe
he already
not our
has
own.
the jersey. Okay, we were the Toronto Junior Canadiens.
Yeah.
Again, at the end of the day, Marko,
Pull the old jersey out.
it would take more at Josh Anderson to get there, Randall Riley, I believe, right? So, but again, it was just on that one. What the percentage do you believe the Montreal could make the playoff? Absolutely not all, over 45%. Marko.
I mean, is Patrick Laine healthy the rest of the year?
To me, that's not the most. I would just say overall health. I think like not just Laine, but like again, like to me, the key for Montreal is being able to roll 4 lines, have come at you in waves. It's more of like a team concept thing. But yeah, so Patrick Laine is part of that. It's hard to quantify, but 45% seems way too high for sure because of the amount of teams that are in the race, right? So you have at least 5 teams, 5, 6, 7 teams that are in the mix. So I'd say it's more like a 20% chance, that they can make the playoffs because again, you have to continue playing the same way you're playing now. You have to stay healthy, and then you're competing against 5 to 7 other teams that are also very consistent,
including Tampa. Right? Like Tampa's got 49, Boston's got 49, and then you're 48 with Columbus. So the question is, like, do you believe Columbus, Ottawa, Montreal, Detroit is legitimately that pack? I don't know. Do the Rangers turn it around? They're the only ones that could pop up, in my opinion, unless, Sorokin turns into Lord. So then you go, okay, well, they're a bubble team, right? But I don't know. Like it might be 45 might be the right number.
Here we go. Exact for Michael, and not allowed for Marko. And the last one, guys, Montreal Canadiens would have more points que Columbus Blue Jackets.
Man, that's really tight.
Ew. Yeah, I'd have to look at the strength of schedule for both teams. Coach, do you know what the strength of schedule is for Columbus? I know what Montreal.
Not in my mind, like to set up like a deep about that.
I would probably like Columbus has kind of like a team of destiny vibe kind of thing going. All the good juju, everybody's rooting for them, so they have that thing going for them. If I'm just looking at the roster overall,
they've won 5 in a row. Holy crap!
Yeah. So Werenski to me is like having a Norris caliber season, and he's like, so can he sustain that? I don't know, but overall, I think that Montreal. I think Montreal
right?
has
if you look at the last years, Marko, like he's been hurt, right, in different points.
Yeah.
I think that's the only thing that's held him back because he's always been a very good,
but not to that level, right? Like, would you put him in the same tier as Makar and Quinn Hughes? Like, I had him like he's an elite defenseman, but to be in that upper echelon like Norris Trophy conversation, I didn't know that he was at that level, but I always knew he was going to be really good. I didn't think his two-way game was as strong as it is, to be honest.
Listen to his rookie year, 47 points, but 11 goals, 16 goals, 11 goals, 20 goals in 63 games. But then he only plays 35 games, gets 7 goals, right? Is that lockout year maybe? And then 11 goals, 48 points, injured in 22, 23, 8 points in 13 games, 57 points in 70 games. So to me, this is health, right? Like this is him not playing. And otherwise, if you look at his points per game, he's been doing insane numbers. Like he's legitimately that type of guy. The problem
So-
right now is what happens with Monahan.
Yeah.
What's the
And
injury with
overall,
him?
I look at the rosters. I
can
I
help
would
you,
probably-
Marco, about the answer. I did it very quickly. I just took the team playing the playoff for the remaining of the season, right? The Columbus
Yeah.
played 16 times, and Montreal played 20 times.
Interesting.
Wait, what?
Yeah, that's a tough one. I think they're going to be really close, but I would give
Got it.
I would give Montreal the slight edge. I think Montreal will finish slightly because I believe in Montreal's goaltending a little bit more than Columbus, and Montreal has a little bit more experience across their lineup. Like you have the Gallaghers, you have some players that have made the playoffs before. Columbus, like they have Monahan, but they don't have they still don't have a lot of experience missing in their lineup. And overall, that team just hasn't made the playoffs that much in their existence. Yeah. So they made the playoffs, I think, twice. So I would give Montreal. I think once or twice, yeah. And that one of them was in the bubble too, right? So,
oh my God.
So I would give Montreal the edge on this one, Coach.
So Jakob Dobe, how are we liking that guy so far?
He's been good. Like I think we're all I think for those who watched him closely in Laval, like we all thought he had a great back end of the season last year. Struggled a little bit arriving when he became a pro, then finished super strong, carried Laval in the second half of the season. But the book on him was that just really talented guy and really athletic, but still had some of those habits from the NCAA where he was a little too busy in the crease, like was sometimes out of position, so needed to become a little bit more quiet. So we would, I think the consensus on our panel was just let him cook down there, and we agreed that Primo needed to move down. So I think we're all been really pleasantly surprised by how he's performed so far. I think he's been everything that you would want, like everything we were concerned about him about being a little too busy in the net. He's been the complete opposite. Like he's been eating up pucks, like just soaking them in, not letting a lot of rebounds. Been playing really patient. So really exceeding my expectations, and I had high expectations for him. Like he had a really strong training camp as well. So yeah, he's been really nice story for us.
Suddenly the future looks pretty good with him and Fowler. But Fowler, you're talking about all the things that this is my argument of getting Fowler to the AHL, getting Augustine to the AHL, because as much as we talk about NCAA, like
it's they
don't have the workload. They're going to school. It's a softer
it's a
brand
different
of
style of game too, right? Like from what I've heard and what I read is that, and from my viewings too, right, is there's less east-west in the NCAA, so goalies can be a lot more aggressive, challenging players and stuff like that. So it's a totally different style of play, and Dobesh needed to adapt that way.
Yep. I think it's
all right.
good.
Let's move on with the last part of the show tonight. On that one, I go with Columbus because I feel like Johnny Gaudreau is going to be the motivation for the Columbus Blue Jacket. By the time we tell us what's happening, the draft, guys, what's happening, Marco, is this way. And Marco and the people in the chat, Montreal Canadiens, Detroit Red Wings are going to be right now between 10 to 20. So I removed the player like McQueen and Misa, everything like that, Desnoyers. But I give you other names. I want Marco to give us some name over there. What you think about them? But before that, do you feel like Marco?
Super chat.
We have a super chat for Jordan. And before that, think about this, Michael. What do you think about the situation for Sheffer and for McQueen? Or do you think they're going to hurt their ranking at the NHL Draft 2025? But we do the super chat at the same time.
I don't know how this works. Was this his dance?
Reverse championship.
I think I'm doing it right.
Jordan did it again. The Hockey National Show. Thanks so much for the super chat on that.
Jordan, are you from Seaforth? Is that where you're from? Jordan, you can type in the chat. Like you went to prom with Shannon O'Reilly. So does that mean you're from Seaforth? Let me know.
Here we go. What do you think about Sheffer and McQueen, Marco?
Schaefer is the number one pick. I said this before. You saw what he can do. How serious that injury is, I just don't see it affecting him. McQueen, Everybody knows the skating is the issue. So and there was we were listening to our scouts in a recent scout meeting, and they were talking about when he was younger, and they're like, yeah, I didn't think that guy was going to make it, but he's obviously played pretty well. The skating's an issue, so I think no matter what, the skating is going to hold him back. Not the injury is definitely a concern. Like he's been out the whole year, but Schaefer, man, I mean that's a once in a lifetime guy in my opinion. Like he's so good. Like
would you compare McQueen to like a Kirby Doc?
Yeah, there's a lot of Kirby Doc in there. He definitely is like Kirby.
Yeah, a little bit more of a shooter, right? Than
he can shoot. He's got. I mean, I don't know. Like Kirby's a very skilled player. Kirby was rushed, right? Like he had 170-point season under his belt, and then suddenly he's in the NHL and third overall. So I think if the best thing would have been send him back to Saskatoon with Mitch Love, who's now in Washington, and that would have helped him. And obviously the injuries really, really have hurt him, like repeated injuries. So you're right. Like Rogers got a shot, but there's still a lot of rawness there.
Yeah. So I'm with Michael, Coach. I don't think this injury is going to impact Schaefer too. Like for me, I would have him number 1, 2. Is it impossible that he drops like within the top 3? Maybe. It really depends of what, so to me, he drops no lower than 3rd overall. Like I don't see this injury changing anything. It's not like a Lindstrom, like with a back problem. Like it's just kind of like a unlucky, kind of like because it was shoulder, like that was a brutal thing to watch at the World Junior. So there was a clavicle, right? Broken clavicle. So, just follow the same plan McDavid did when he broke his clavicle in his rookie season, and he'll be fine.
Yeah,
I don't see that. Are you watching the game, Marko, Oilers?
Yeah.
We just saw the first soccer players, Owenson.
Yeah.
He got a elbow for McDavid. And the replay, I don't know if you see the elbow hit hard Owenson, but Owenson dropped the glove, the helmet, everything, but Hines behind the bench is not happy about that. If you have a chance, guys, to see the replay right there,
he's going to get. Would you say the coach is going to get a fine for that one? If I'm the NHL, I'm absolutely fining him for that.
Gonna find out.
Disgraceful.
I don't know about that one, but we'll see happening. Anyway, Marko and the people in the chat, this is what I believe could happen in the NHL draft. It's still early, by the way. Sean could chant a lot. Yeah. I give you a couple of names there. It may be Marko, and Marko gave us some information about them and about Spence, Carbonneau, Moore, Lekovic, Marka, Fittler, Bear, Hensler, Murdoch, O'Brien, Coates, and Martin. Marko, you may be select for the Detroit Red Wings, Marko for the Montreal Canadiens. And now I remove everybody under 6 foot. And for that one, Marko, I remove all the left defensemen. But I think Montreal's not going to go that direction. So Hensler is not there. And somewhere else defenseman is not there. Reed is not there too. So you can give us that one, or Marko, if you think about front player right there. What you feel about those players? Maybe a defenseman, maybe a forward. I have 3 players. Pick on my curiosity about that. Maybe William Moore is not there, but depends on the front, prospect ranking. But that's what we got there. We have maybe player I forgot. You can talk about them too.
So, I mean, I can obviously talk to Carter Bear. I mean, he was rated a B, and I said this, I think, on the show that as soon as he was rated a B, he's going to show you he's an A. So do I think he's an A? Absolutely. He's done absolutely nothing to dissuade me from that. Now, is that a mid first or a late? I don't know. I've seen him as high as 7. I'm not sure if that's true or not. I'm probably biased, and I think, fine. Coots, I see Coots a lot, and there's a lot to like about Coots. I just wonder what he is as a pro, but he's fast, and he can shoot, and he's got some jam. Hensler, we all saw Hensler. I think Hensler drops. I don't see the offensive part of it. I think he's a defenseman at the pro level. Blake Fiddler, I've watched a lot. He's grown a lot. If you watched him at the Halinka, I worried about Blake in front of the net, but he's 6'4". He's got pro habits. He's got a big shot. He's right shot defenseman. What is he in the NHL? Maybe he's a 2. Maybe he's a 4. I don't know. Maybe he's a 5. It's hard to say with him. it's just he's got to now grow into his body a little bit, but he does everything pretty well. I don't know who is Martin. I'm trying to think of who you're taking with Martin. Which Martin is
Sorry?
that? Who's Martin?
Martin is the player playing at the WHL, I believe. Hold on, I got this right there. I go to
Brady Martin plays for the
Brady
Sioux.
Martin for the Sioux.
Yeah,
He's
Brady
in the OHL.
Martin.
I haven't seen him. I don't know anything about him.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Coach. Like I'm with Michael. Like the only guy he didn't mention was Carbonneau. Like Carbonneau's like he's a winger, big guy, pretty skillful. Like a good. I think he's like kind of below the hash marks kind of guy. I don't know about him on the rush. His skating is I think okay, pretty good. To me, I was really anxious to hear more about Bear from Michael because I've been really excited about Bear. If there's somebody this whole list, to me, if there's somebody Montreal would target in that range, for me, absolutely, he, somebody that really excites me. O'Brien too, like O'Brien, he can play center. I think we know about Spence as well too. Like he's a gamer. I'm just not sure the offense is there. But he's a gamer, right? Like he's going to be somebody that I think his floor is energy, like kind of like gamer guy that's going to play on your third line at the very least. So it's a low risk pick, and he's a known commodity compared to some of the other guys. Another guy that's I'm interested in, Michael. Can you tell us more about Lakovic?
I honestly haven't watched him play very much. I'm trying to think of when I would have seen him last.
Because it's
Lakovic is one of the riser this year. He's a big body, 6'4". Play with
I honestly don't have an opinion on him at this point. I'll make a point of watching him. The guy that I don't see in here is Ravensburger. Like, to me, the goalie, like, I think he's got, like, why would you not take
the goalie,
him?
I didn't put any goalie there, right? You have two goalies on the top first round pick, I believe.
Yeah.
But
so, like, who would Detroit or Montreal pick in that range is kind of the question, right? I don't think Detroit's picking a goalie. I don't think Detroit's picking a goalie.
No, we have no need, and you have no need. So, I don't know. It's weird. Like, I guess my hope for Detroit was originally that they would get, like, a Frondell or an Eklund. I just think that's suddenly they're out of that range, so that's not helpful. Hensler, I don't see adding much. Like,
I'm a big Frondell guy too. Like, I think he's going to reemerge in the second half here.
I mean, we didn't, he wasn't at the World Juniors. Like, he's young, so they didn't bring him. Like, I think he's playing.
He may be dropped, Marko, but I see him at the top 10 from there. Yeah. Like, I see Tim would pick up him around worst case 7, 8, 9, 10. You remind me, Marko, the Marko Casper year, where Casper was a little bit higher, and then he dropped a little bit, and then he picked up by Detroit at what, 8?
Yeah, or 9 or something.
I think it's 8 or 9 overall pick. So I think Frondell would be a good pick on the top 10.
Anton Lundell?
Yeah, he reminds me of an Anton.
He's got like a lot of skill.
A little bit more skillsy, but I think has potential to play a strong two-way game. Like, for me, he's going to play the middle for sure. Like, like he plays wing and center, but I think he's going to be a center, and I think he has two-way potential for sure. But I think you're right. Like, maybe a little bit more offensive upside than Lundell.
But Lundell's pretty good. I mean, Lundell's like, he does have offense. I think he's just been playing that role. Yeah. So maybe you're right. Yeah. I don't know. I'd have to. The other one is the big Rush or Czech defenseman.
Yeah.
I don't know. I see him falling, but.
For me, Marko, this is my pick for the Calgary Flame. The right defenseman right there. If I have to get there. Now, said that, Marko, I feel like Montreal select first, and then Calgary Flame select after that on that one. Carbonneau is a good situation. Montreal, he could be that one. Lakovic is another one. And my question for both of you or the people in the chat, like a guy like Michael Edge, Marco, like 2 years ago, I believe he was considered top 10 or top 12. And then the situation happening to him hurt, everything like that. Any players on that level where he will be a top 10 and then he drop lower after that,
because of
you can see
injury
the
or something like
NHL
that.
draft. Is it a Russian kid like Rabkin could be that one?
He hasn't dropped because of injury though. Rapkin is just he hasn't played very well, right?
No,
I
yeah,
think
but
with
only
Michael
one
Hayes,
goal, 12 pointer in the
yeah,
MHL. He's struggling this year. But
Oh boy.
yeah.
yeah,
So I think
like
with the thing that was different with Michael Hage is that he was injured, right? So he was slated like he was right
Was he
there.
hurt?
He was in the top
Or was
five
it,
conversation. Yeah, Michael Hage had some injury problems, and
I thought it was the
um,
dad situation because wasn't
no,
his dad?
before that, he got hurt on the
yeah,
Was he?
exhibition
Okay.
game.
yeah,
Before the dad happening after that,
yeah.
during the summer.
So he was like in the conversation for he was like a top five, top 10 guy, and then
Well, that's a
so
good
again that's a good question, Coach. Like, is there a Michael Hage kind of guy that last
Mondell.
year was projected to be? Yeah, so Frondell to me is that guy
Yeah,
because like
that's the same type of player too, right?
yeah, because Frondell
Maybe a
right now on
little.
some lists is like 17. Like he's dropped quite a bit on some lists.
Really?
So
No. If
yeah,
if listen, if that happens, that's they're just projecting because I can't see unless you say this guy's always going to be hurt, which is the risk, right? Like, is if he's
yeah,
that type of guy because he's had some crazy injuries, but game in game out, like man, you like he's more he's more comparable to the top six than he is
I agree.
not. You know?
Do you know a lot about
Two
Jacob
player I
Brown?
ask you, Marco and Michael, and my opinion before we move out. Um, Spence and Fittler. What do you feel about both of them? And do you think there will be a pick could be dropped in the top 15?
I mean, the thing with Blake is, I think I said this before. What will he be, right? Like, I think you saw at the Halinka, he's playing elite guys, and I thought he struggled defensively in front of the net. He's really lanky still. Like, he's grown a ton. He's probably 6'4", so he's grown like probably 3 inches in the last 2 years. Does he have the offense at the next level? I don't know. So I think that's a big question. Like, does he end up being a 2-3 or does he end up like being a 4-5? So depending on what your answer to that is, I could see him being 15 to 20 in the group.
Yeah, yeah.
He can even drop further. It just depends on how you project him. Like
It's a right hand. Those right hand guys, like they always tend to kind of like bounce up, but I think it's really more as an offensive game. I think that will hold him back from
yeah,
being
I think so.
top 10. But you know that they value all NHL clubs are going to value a right hand shot, like a big guy that can skate and everything else. First, Spence, like I said, for me, I think he's a known commodity. Like he's played the U18s. A lot of teams have been following him for quite a while. He's got there's name recognition with Spence. But again,
He's
it's
got
the offensive side, right? Like to
I
me,
mean, he's
his
got
his
points, like big time, right?
yeah, yeah. Like to me, his floor is high. So I wouldn't be surprised. He's going to be right around there, coach. Like, so for a team that's just looking to make a solid pick and not looking to hit a home run, that's the kind of guy that you go for with the very predictable floor and the character, right? Like he's really
Yeah.
strong character, a gamer. You can't go wrong with a guy like that. Like to me, he's like a less skilled Iginla. Like he, Iginla to me, like again, in a way, like I'm super happy that Montreal get Demidov, but I was kind of getting used to the idea of having Iginla being a Montreal Canadian. So in a way, I'm still disappointed that he's in Utah. But I see kind of Spence as kind of like an Iginla, but less offensive upside, but same kind of motor and same kind of character guy.
Yeah, that he's big. I think worst case you're saying this is a 12, 15 goal scorer on the third line that's never he's gonna be a pain in the ass to play against. Like he's just gonna lean on guys. And then maybe you say, well, if I give him a top 6 role, then maybe he's a 20, 25 goal scorer. So to your point, like is that mid to late first? I don't know.
Yeah.
How mean
Honestly,
is he?
for me, it would be. We
He's
don't know
mean.
what could happen, right? By the way, tomorrow night, Thursday night, you have a game. USA. What was the game again, Michael, tomorrow night? For the prospect, they have a name for that one. Showcase. Jeez, I forgot.
Oh, is it tomorrow already? Jeez.
Yeah, it's a player for UCHL, I believe, against CHL. No,
Again?
they have a game tomorrow night. I just read this like today.
I was not
I
aware.
thought we already did that. We did that like we had 2 games. Is there another one?
They have another game tomorrow. I read this on the news NHL. Let me check.
Yeah, I'm curious about that because I thought that we already did that. I was not aware of that.
Michael, while we're
Also,
on the
tomorrow
like,
we'll be in Minnesota watching 14-year-olds. So
right, Michael, anybody else? Like, I know you watch a lot of WHL, right? So, anybody else from say the WHL that you could see being a late riser, somebody that people are not talking about that you think we should be looking out for, and maybe give us an update on your generational player, Mr. Dupont, how that's going.
I mean, that's easier.
Oh yeah, I know.
He's like every game is a pleasure. It's just to think we're going to get that guy for 3 years because he's too young to be drafted till 27. At
Wow.
training camp, I was kind of like, we had a high bar because we had Olin Zellweger's training camp, right? And that was truly an eye-opening experience. He came in as a 5'11", 180 guy, and I go, listen, worst case is an 18-year-old defenseman you're getting, but who's 15. And that I don't know. You could tell he is very, very good. I think offensively he's way better than he showed in camp. Like he's just, he's phenomenal. So that if he's not the first overall pick in 3 years, I'll be shocked. And right now he's, like I said before, an 18-year-old defenseman. Like that's a 15-year-old, right? Like it's kind of crazy. His sense is like his confidence, his skating, everything's there. I mean, there's nothing not there.
Is it similar, like because the thing that we hear most, Michael, about exceptional players is the reason that they're exceptional is not just their talent, but it's how they work, right? It's all the extra work they put in. It's the same kind of. I'm assuming with him, right?
I don't know that firsthand. I actually haven't had that conversation, but I don't think he fits in very well with our group. Our group works really hard off the ice, so I think he fit in obviously at camp. Does not stand out as being anything other than another player until he gets on the ice. Then he's like just a really, really, really good player. Like he's great. Like I loved being on the bench with him. He was totally quiet and joking with the guys.
You're going to be in a very unique position over the next couple of years, man. Like get a lot of viewings in. You're going to be on every podcast as leading up to that draft for people looking for
that's a good point.
Yeah, so I would start studying up, dude. Get your notebook, and you're going to be on every podcast in the league heading up to that draft. So
that's a good point.
I mean, Michael, the 2025 Chipotle All-American Game set for January 16 at USA Hockey Arena in Plymouth, Detroit, Michigan. 7:15 is going to be the game tomorrow night at 7 p.m., 7:15. So I just want to share it with you. Is a prospect for USA.
So this is who's in this game? I wasn't even aware of this. I mean, I'm scouting 2010s the next 5 days. So
the top players eligible for the upcoming NHL Draft for the USA Hockey National Team Development Program and the United States Hockey League, the Tier 1 Junior Hockey League, and US.
Oh, wow. I recognize a lot of names on this. Ben Kevin, who we drafted.
Yeah.
Sean Barnhill. That's really cool that he's in there. Riker Lee's in there. Will Moore's in there. Jeez. All right.
And Michael, maybe this summer, man, I would be very I don't know if we have time today, but it would be very interesting to hear. It'd be very interesting to hear from you what goes into scouting 14-year-old players, like how it's different. I don't know if we have time to get in that today. It would be very interesting to get kind of what your routine looks like. How is it different than scouting players that are a bit more ahead? But so maybe think on that, and that may be something we can cover off.
I mean, the short answer is you are part scout and part geneticist.
Interesting. Wow.
And then you're also trying to deal with, and it might get harder, the level that you're watching.
Yeah.
Right, you're really trying to say like, there's another level of this age group, and then there's our level, and you're trying to figure out, do they have separation speed? Do they have the skill? Do they have the grit and toughness to handle it? We're not worried usually about size. That's actually not in our consideration. And then the hockey sense, does it translate? Those are really what we're evaluating.
Interesting.
All right, guys.
Awesome.
I don't know if you have anything else, but it was a pleasure to have both of you tonight. I think we did pretty good overall. We passed the time. I apologize, Marko and Marco, but I think the subject was very good. We probably participate a lot.
Thanks for letting me know about this game. There's all these players in it that I've scouted. So
yeah,
and drafted. Actually, drafted one of them.
In the next couple of days or maybe a couple of weeks, we can talk again in NHL Draft with Marco, and also the Dupont, the McKenna, the next, the next 2-3 there. And then one thing we don't talk, I think this year the goaltender is pretty good, and NHL Draft 2025, by the way.
Ravens.
We'll see. Montreal Canadiens have 7 pick in the top 3 round for the Montreal Canadiens. So, Marco, I think Montreal can select whatever they select, 12, 13, 14, 15. They can have a couple of good players for Montreal a long term. So,
don't be surprised if Montreal punts some of those picks to future years too, Coach. Like hearing Kent Hughes, I wouldn't be surprised if he tries to move some of those picks 2-3 years ahead, just to spread it out a little bit too.
You're absolutely about that. So that's concluded the show tonight. Marco, anything you want to add? What do you predict for the Detroit Red Wings the next couple of weeks and the trade deadline?
Man, if you look at their schedule, they're almost playing every other night. It's really rough, and top teams. So
they have the toughest schedule, right?
The schedule is insane. Like, it's ridiculous. Like the next, I don't understand the San Jose game, like putting Husso in there and then losing to San Jose, because now you got to play Florida, Tampa, and you just go through the gauntlet. So it's going to be very interesting to see how they do.
I'll be watching and rooting. I'll be watching those Detroit games and rooting against them ferociously, Michael. Unless Montreal separates itself, then. But I'll be doom watching all those other teams. Like I said, it's very exciting. All the parity right now, Coach. It's so much fun. My remote control, I have to change the batteries every couple of days because I just keep flipping back and forth to all these different games. It's really exciting.
Time you're watching Detroit, Marco, I'm going to watching Demidov and the Flames.
There you go.
Yeah, good.
There you go.
Prediction, Marco, tomorrow night, Dallas, Toronto, and Yak Rangers.
For me, the most important game on the schedule, as always, they got to beat Toronto. I don't mind if they can lose against Dallas. They can lose against the Rangers. I'll be happy if they beat Toronto. That's what I'm looking for.
I wish you an amazing, great night, Marco. And Michael, thanks for stopping by, Marco. We're going to get in touch a little bit longer. Have a great, beautiful weather in Minnesota during the weekend. Enjoy the sunshine over there.
Bum off.
And Marco, but I will see you next week for another book, of course, of the Montreal Canadiens. So thanks to both of you tonight to participate in the show. I wish you an amazing, great night.
Thanks,
Bye.
guys.
Thanks, guys.
See you later, Michael. Thanks. Bye.
Thanks for one more game I got to watch tomorrow.
Here we go. That's happening about that. That's all, guys, for the show tonight. We appreciate that to be part of the show. We appreciate all the people. And we want to thank moderator Luciano, Ron, and our tap, RJ Calabro at the news update. All the people in the chat, thanks so much. And we want to thank also the super chat of Jordan tonight. And the reason, guys, the show is getting better is because all of you are awesome. You are amazing. You are the best. And remember, you have greatness inside of you. Here we go. That's going to get the show. Be well, be healthy. Find a way not only dominate your day, but find a way to dominate the first half of what? I would say hi to Luc Laverson. I keep this for the last minute. For Luc Laverson is in the chat. An amazing, great night, everybody. So, of course, and the Hockey Nation show, the Ab Nation, was tell one more thing, sir. We love you, friends. What Coach is doing? Coach is going to be on the beach. I'm going to go sleep on the beach. I sleep 48 minutes today. Here we go. Booyah, everybody.